the zombie emperor in American comics. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 276 Princess Nissa. According to the information sent back by number 13, Princess Nissa is quite capable. Grand Duke Ali, head of the Machinus family, retired years ago. 4 years, she's been the one publicly in charge of the entire Machinus family, and she's done a very good job. Selena slowly revealed the information she had on Nissa. As for number 13, she was one of the most loyal dead apostles she'd trained over the past 2 years. Along with the Death Walkers, they were her most powerful weapons. The Death Walkers, needless to say, were an elite special forces unit Selena had created, modeled after the world of Underworld. Their leaders were the 9 vampires who were able to withstand Selena's psychic abilities during the New York Vampire Gathering. Unlike the more visible Death Walkers, the Dead Apostles, as their name suggests, remained hidden, carrying out special missions assigned by Selena. Besides her, only Wang Yunxiao and the other women knew their true identities, even they were unaware of each other's identities. Hearing Selena mention the familiar name Princess Nissa, Wang Yunxiao immediately suspected something, though he wasn't completely certain. Has number 13 learned the purpose of her visit? Wang Yunxiao asked softly. It's said that a group of monsters codenamed Harvesters have suddenly appeared in Soviet Russia. They not only feed on human blood, but vampires are their primary prey. Their predatory appetite is so alarming that they've already caused widespread trouble in Europe. Selena's expression grew more serious as she mentioned the Harvesters, hunting vampires for a living? That's quite interesting, Wang Yunxiao murmured softly. At this point, he no longer had any doubts. He was completely certain that, despite the absence of the Daywalker Blade, the destined protagonist, the inertia of history would ensure that the plot of Blade II would proceed as planned. Since they were making such a fuss, why hasn't the Vatican made any move at all? Wang Yunxiao pondered for a moment. No. That's what's strange. Given the Vatican's usual style, they would have intervened long ago, but this time, there's been no response. Selena shook her head slightly, equally surprised. In that case, let's ignore them for now. Let's focus our attention on Princess Nissa and those Reapers. It's fitting, I've been getting a bit bored of staying in Wakanda all this time. It's time to get out and about. As he spoke, Wang Yunxiao took Selena's delicate hand and gently patted it twice as a gesture of comfort. Actually, with the new ability converter, Wang Yunxiao no longer had to be trapped in Wakanda. It was just that the Space Stone and the Tesseract were crucial, and he didn't want to take any unnecessary risks. But now that the story of Blade II had begun, Wang Yunxiao naturally wouldn't miss it. Even the risk was worth it. Moreover, with the Vampire Council now completely under Selena's control, even if there were some risks, they wouldn't be too great. More importantly, if she acted wisely, Selena might seize the opportunity to infiltrate the European vampire ruling party, or even take over the entire invisible vampire empire. The Vampire Council is no longer the dark, gloomy place it once was. Any normal person who spent any time there would undoubtedly develop some kind of mental illness. As soon as Selena officially took over the council, she undertook a comprehensive renovation. While not necessarily extravagant, it was at least imposing and grand. That day, Selena, as usual, was buried in her desk, handling important matters for the council, primarily reviewing intelligence from Europe to better plan her strategy for the European vampire ruling party. 6 months earlier, she had secretly dispatched most of her dead apostles to Europe. In a secret room behind Selena, Wang Yunxiao was also busy, seizing every moment to continuously inject special energy into the cosmic cube. He had been transferred here from the Wakanda Palace ever since Selena brought him the news about Princess Nissa and the Harvester. Beep, beep, suddenly, the alarms in the Parliament building blared. Selena looked up, frowning, and glanced outside. But before she could ask, a chaotic commotion erupted. Is he here? Wang Yunxiao muttered to himself in the secret room. He had guessed who the newcomer was, but he didn't intend to leave just yet. He simply stored the cosmic cube and the energy converter in his personal storage and waited to see how things unfolded. Bang! Moments later, the office door was kicked open, and a nimble figure sprinted in, heading straight for Selena. The newcomer was heavily armed, and though she was wrapped tightly, it was easy to tell she was a woman. Swish, 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 the attacker, each holding a gleaming long sword, leaped in front of Selena in a few steps. The two blades slashed with a swift, cold gleam. Clang, clang, clang. Selena's expression remained impassive. As she rose to meet the attack, she seized two Nepalese swords and, with a single wave of her hand, blocked the attacker's blows. Both women were incredibly agile. In just a minute, they had already exchanged dozens, perhaps hundreds, of fierce blows, a truly dazzling spectacle. Clang, with a resounding clang, the attacker's strength was far inferior to Selena's. The moment Selena took the slightest step forward, she was easily outmatched and sent flying by a single blow from Selena's blade. HMPH. You're the blood god? Not so great. Even so, the attacker snorted in dissatisfaction. Princess, before Selena could react, another anxious cry came from outside, and another powerful figure rushed into the office. Lady Selena, then came the sound of hurried footsteps. Dozens of death walkers rushed in, surrounding the two intruders. For a moment, the atmosphere in the office dropped to a freezing point, with both sides glaring at each other with murderous intent. Everyone, retreat. Selena waved her hand briefly, ordering the death walkers to withdraw. Yes, without hesitation, the death walkers all obeyed the order and were out of the office in a flash. Princess Nisha, are you going to continue hiding? Selena then looked at the woman from before with an expressionless face. Please collect, recommend, and vote. Chapter 277 Departure for Europe. HMPH, Nissa snorted softly. Without hesitation, she flung aside her hood, revealing a face both beautiful and heroic. Her eyes widened as she stared at Selena, unyielding and defiant. The other man also flung aside his hood, his demeanor much calmer. He was Nissa's personal bodyguard, Yasa. Since the Great War 200 years ago, the North American Parliament and the European ruling party have maintained a level playing field. Today, Princess Nissa and her men stormed my parliament building. Is this a blatant provocation? Or are you prepared for an all-out war with me? Selena said indifferently. But her words were truly earth-shattering. War? Nissa's expression shifted drastically, with surprise, confusion, and doubt, but she wasn't afraid at all. She opened her mouth to challenge. Princess Nissa, Yasa quickly barked, stopping Nissa from continuing, thus escalating the situation. Under normal circumstances, Yasa wouldn't have dared to be so disrespectful and openly scold Nissa in front of outsiders. But now that Europe was riven by unrest with the harvesters, provoking the American Vampire Council would be a serious disaster. More importantly, they came here to seek help, not to provoke another powerful enemy. Indeed, as Selena had said, the vampire race had never been a monolithic entity, especially since the vampire king Vlad Tepes Dracula fell into a long slumber and ceased to rule. The vampire race was further divided into two factions, the European Vampire Party and the North American Vampire Council. Over 200 years ago, a devastating and earth-shattering war erupted. Even though that war ended in a mutually devastating defeat, leaving the North American Vampire Council completely independent, the European Vampire Party, always claiming legitimacy, never forgot to reintegrate the North American Vampire Council. My apologies, Council Speaker Selena. We come here with no ill intentions. We are here to offer you goodwill on behalf of the great Duke Elida Macinus. Your Excellency the Duke hopes to reach a truce with you and jointly defeat this formidable enemy. Then, Yasa knelt on one knee and respectfully presented an ornate letterbox. Oh, Selena replied non-committally, casually accepting the letterbox. HMPH. I admit you are indeed powerful, worthy of being our most formidable enemy, but recently, a daring individual has suddenly appeared out there, even more formidable than you. Nissa, now regaining her composure, said proudly. Your Excellency the Duke wishes to meet you soon, Yasa added. Even more formidable than me? You mean those so-called Reapers? Selena sneered disdainfully. Quite true, Nissa nodded solemnly in acknowledgement. I understand. You should go down and rest. I'll give you an answer later. Selena gave Nisha another deep look and bluntly ordered them to leave. Come on. Send these two guests down to rest. Then, without waiting for Nisha to say anything, Selena had them escorted out. You, Nisha was unwilling to leave just like that. Just as she was about to say something, Yasa stopped her with a look. She was forced to reluctantly be led away. Selena opened the mailbox, took out the letter inside, and quickly read it. "What do you think?" Selena asked without turning back when she heard footsteps behind her. "It seems that number 13's intelligence is not accurate enough. Given Princess Nisha's impulsive personality, she's more likely just a puppet pushed to the forefront, right?" Wang Yunxiao's words echoed in Selena's ears. "Or maybe the seemingly arrogant little princess is playing some trick on us, deliberately acting so impulsive." Wang Yunxiao then added with deep meaning. "I'm not interested in who she is. I'm asking what you think of their true purpose here." But Selena clearly wasn't interested in Nissa. She was more concerned with the man behind her, Duke Elida Macinus, and wanted to know what that old man was up to. What other purpose could it be? "It's nothing more than drawing us into battle. If we can fight those Reapers to a mutual defeat, that would be even better," Wang Yunxiao said without hesitation, clearly having a plan in mind. Wang Yunxiao, familiar with the plot, knew perfectly well that this was all a conspiracy by Elida's subordinates, simply switching their targets from the blades. Those so-called Reapers were merely the product of his failed experiments, and their leader was none other than his eldest son, Chad Norma. "I think so too. Should we get involved?" Selena nodded slightly before asking in a deep voice. "Go. Why not? They're plotting against us, so why not take this opportunity to infiltrate the ruling vampire party in Europe?" Wang Yunxiao said with a half-smile, a cold glint in his eyes. "Do we need to bring Deathwalkers?" Selena had always had no objection to Wang Yunxiao's decisions, but she raised a crucial question. This undoubtedly indicated that she intended to seize this opportunity to launch an all-out war against the ruling vampire party in Europe. Otherwise, why would she bring her most powerful weapon? Not yet. Let's wait until we've thoroughly investigated the situation there before making a decision. It'll be easier with just the two of us. Besides, don't you have quite a few dead apostles deployed to Europe? Even if something unexpected happens, there'll be more than enough." After a moment's thought, Wang Yunxiao rejected Selena's proposal. "We also need to keep an eye on the Vatican's movements on this trip. We don't want them to take advantage of us in the end." After a moment's thought, Selena raised a more crucial question. "The Church and the vampires have always been sworn enemies, but this time, they didn't take any action. If they said there was no conspiracy, she would never believe it." "That's right," Wang Yunxiao also agreed with Selena's concerns. Afterwards, the two of them simply returned to the manor and summoned the women back. On the one hand, they explained their decision to them, and on the other hand, they wanted to see if they had any additional comments. As the saying goes, one person's plan is short, two people's plan is long, and three people's work is easy to discuss. That night, after arranging all matters related to the American Vampire Council, Wang Yunxiao and Selena took Nisha and the others on a jet and flew directly to Paris. Macinus's headquarters is in Paris, which is also the headquarters of the European Vampire Party. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 278, First Meeting with Machisno. Under Nisha's guidance, the jet slowly landed on the tarmac of Macinus Castle. The castle was heavily guarded, with sentries every 3 steps and every 5 steps, each of them armed with live ammunition. Their presence alone rivaled Selena's newly assembled Deathwalkers. This was not surprising. The Macinus family was the most prominent European vampire family and one of the ruling parties within the vampire world. Their centuries-long heritage was unmatched by the fledgling Deathwalkers. Entering the castle, the interior, unlike the opulence Wang Yunxiao had imagined, was simple yet imbued with a high-tech feel. As Wang Yunxiao watched with mild surprise, Nisha led him and Selena downwards, not to the living room or study, but to the main room. Well, as they journeyed, Wang Yunxiao had to admit that the castle's underground space was far larger than the surface, resembling the underground base of the Umbrella Industrial Park. But this wasn't some secret testing ground. Was it really necessary? Wang Yunxiao grumbled to himself, forgetting that the Macinus were, after all, a vampire family, and a penchant for darkness was in their nature. Soon, they arrived at a spacious, airtight stone chamber. After Nissa's DNA verification, the heavy alloy door slowly descended from the wall. "The true power of our Macinus family lies here," Nissa declared proudly, then stepped inside. Wang Yunxiao and Selena exchanged a glance, each seeing the silence in the other's eyes. Living in a dark basement all day, what was there to be proud of? In a stone hall steeped in the air of time, Wang Yunxiao and Selena finally met the real lord, the actual ruler of the Machinus family, Duke Elida Machinus. But, I wonder if this old man is just pretending. He knew they were coming, yet he had his back to them, flipping through an ancient book. Dad, Nisha said respectfully, but after uttering those two words, Alida raised a finger to stop him. Then, Alida slowly turned around and looked towards Wang Yunxiao and Selena. Well, he's more than pretending. Wang Yunxiao could give him 32 thumbs up. However, Alida's appearance was truly unflattering. His bald, smooth skin, tinged with bluish-purple, resembled a shelled egg, a rotten one at that. This is my father, the great Duke Elida Machinus. Even so, Nisha introduced Wang Yunxiao and Selena with pride and respect. Chairman of the Selena Council, Mr. Wang, welcome. Alida slowly walked towards Wang Yunxiao and Elena, gently raising a hand for Nisha to support him. Since it's all old news, why not just quietly find a deserted place and wait for death? Why bother stirring up trouble again? Wang Yunxiao suddenly realized that since arriving at Fort Maginus, he'd been venting a lot of complaints. As the saying goes, take pride in your enemies and reap their rewards, so, I should thank you. Alida continued to act mysterious and profound, leaving Wang Yunxiao and Selena at a loss for words. Was he pretending to be just as pretentious as him? Welcome, both of you. Join us in eliminating Chad Norma. Hello, I'm Kalo Kunin. Fortunately, just then, another well-dressed successful man emerged from the side door, approached Wang Yunxiao and Selena, and slowly extended his right hand. Seeing Selena's indifferent expression, not paying any attention to Kalo's words, Wang Yunxiao took the initiative to reach out and shake his hand. After all, he had helped them out, but he couldn't be too disrespectful. Are you human? Wang Yunxiao asked with a half-smile, glancing at the Haga symbol on the back of Kalo's hand. Isn't it the same for Mr. Wang? I'm a lawyer and the head of the European Health International Consortium. Kalo introduced himself with a smile. After hearing Kalo's self-introduction, Wang Yunxiao and Selena realized that the man in front of them was indeed a successful person, the helmsman of one of the largest consortiums in Europe. However, what surprised them a little was that this consortium was actually supported by the ruling party of European vampires. Perhaps you don't know, but since ancient times, many forces have been studying our blood race, trying to peek into the secret of eternal life. Alida didn't give Wang Yunxiao and Selena much time to think, and started his pretentious rhythm again, this time with a bit of seniority. Ignorant humans, it's impossible for them to discover our vampire secrets. Yet, not long ago, by chance, they discovered a contagious virus very similar to ours. Spread through the saliva of predators, the virus spreads throughout the human body within 72 hours, multiplying into parasitic tissue. Alida rambled on and on. Like cancer cells, Wang Yunxiao scoffed. It wasn't his fault, he simply couldn't hold back any longer. Alida's appearance wasn't just strange, his speech was eerie, truly a torture to watch and hear. You could say that, but these are cancer cells with a more purposeful purpose. Alida paused, gave Wang Yunxiao another deep look, and fell silent. Unfortunately, when vampires are infected with a virus, they undergo a terrifying evolution we call the R variant, Caro interjected, pulling out a disc from his pocket. He's Chad Norma, a natural-born vampire, but infected with the R alien, transforming him into a terrifying monster. Everyone gathered in front of the computer. Caro played a disc, pointing to the protagonist in the video and introducing him. The video depicted a secret Soviet laboratory conducting experiments on Chad Norma. The result was the terrifying Harvester, a monster that not only escaped the heavily guarded secret testing base, but also turned everyone within it into its food. The Harvester not only feeds on humans, but also vampires. Furthermore, the vampires it feeds on not only survive, but also become new carriers of the virus, Caro said gravely. You must understand that the predatory drive is immense, seemingly insatiable. There are countless harvesters across Europe right now, and their numbers are rapidly increasing. Nisha chimed in, her expression equally grave. 4 more chapters have been released today. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 279 Scheming? Wait, after all that talk, I just want to ask, why should we help you? Wang Yunxiao, unfazed by the echoing voice of Nisha and Carol Kunin, asked bluntly. After dealing with us, who will they target? You, and those foolish humans. None of us will be spared. Alita Machisno's sinister voice once again echoed in Wang Yunxiao and Selina's ears. What are you going to do? Selina, who had remained silent since arriving, suddenly asked indifferently. Though she was asking, her meaning was clear. Wang Yunxiao shrugged, as if she was helpless at Selina's performance. But in reality, it was just a show for Alita and the others, something they had agreed upon before they arrived. Cooperate. We need to put aside our past grievances for now and unite to fight these monsters together, Alita declared solemnly, his expression brimming with sincerity. Oh? What kind of cooperation? Are you saying you're just going to let us come to Europe en masse? Wang Yunxiao, naturally undeceived by Ali's performance, asked with a half-smile. Selina remained silent again, a stern expression on her face, allowing Wang Yunxiao to proceed. Hearing this, Ali also fell silent, only signaling to Kalo with his eyes. There were certain things he wasn't meant to say, as doing so could easily escalate things, or even lead to unpredictable consequences. Over the past year, we've trained a tactical team, the Blood Guard, and we'd like you to lead them, Council President Selina, Kalo Kunin said solemnly at Ali's signal. Over the past year, Wang Yunxiao's lips curled slightly, a meaningful smile playing across his face. Indeed. They were prepared for you, Blood God. Nisha met Wang Yunxiao's scrutinizing gaze calmly, then shifted it to Selina, the final name Blood God laced with irony. Okay, Selina uttered the two words indifferently, seemingly oblivious to her words. Seeing Selina's decision, Wang Yunxiao again cooperated and said nothing more. But when no one was paying attention, he still managed to give Nissa a provocative glare. This infuriated Nissa, but, seemingly mindful of the situation, she didn't react immediately, simply glaring back at Wang Yunxiao. Wang Yunxiao grinned, completely unfazed by Nissa's murderous glare, finding it genuinely amusing. Then please rest in the castle for the night. Nissa will take you to meet them tomorrow night, Ali said with a satisfied nod and a smile. This way, both of you. Karo stepped forward and personally led the way for Wang Yunxiao and Selina. If possible, find us a room in the castle. We're not used to living in a basement, Wang Yunxiao said with a hint of mockery, his mischievousness flaring up again. Ali remained calm, as if oblivious to the mockery in Wang Yunxiao's words. Meanwhile, Nisha's eyes were once again filled with a chilling coldness. Had Alicia not said nothing, she would have erupted on the spot. However, neither Alicia nor Nisha noticed that the moment Wang Yunxiao turned around, a gleam of brilliance flashed in his eyes. Then, both of you, please rest here in peace. If you need anything, please let the servants know. After leading Wang Yunxiao and Selina to a guest room in the castle, Karo politely said his goodbyes. After closing the door, Wang Yunxiao's first action was to shroud the entire room in an alien dimension. This was Machisno's base, after all, it was always better to be cautious. How do you feel, now that they were alone in the room? Selina no longer had to maintain a stern expression. There must be some conspiracy we're unaware of. Just look at that Machisno's behavior, and it's easy to see. Wang Yunxiao curled his lips in disdain, seemingly disdainful of Ali's clumsy performance. Do you even need to tell me? I'm asking, what are your feelings towards Princess Nisha? I see you're quite interested in her, Selina glared at Wang Yunxiao, asking pointedly. My dear, you've also learned bad habits, Wang Yunxiao laughed dumbly. This little woman's behavior was truly un-Selina, but also truly amusing. Tell me, are you interested in her? Do you need me to create some opportunities for you? Selina ignored Wang Yunxiao's teasing and asked with a smile. No need. I really have no interest in Princess Nisha. Although Wang Yunxiao found Selina's behavior quite amusing, for some reason, he felt something was amiss and quickly refused. Really? Selina looked suspicious. Really? I promise, Wang Yunxiao nodded earnestly. Then why are you so focused on her? Selina asked, still a little puzzled. I just feel that her behavior is seriously inconsistent with the intelligence from 13. If it's just a mistake, it's fine, but if it's something else, it's very interesting, isn't it? Wang Yunxiao didn't hide the reason and told her the truth. HMPH. Forget it, Selina snorted, her expression changing immediately, returning to her proud and cold beauty. Well, it really was a sting operation. Wang Yunxiao secretly rejoiced, finally understanding what was wrong, and at the same time sincerely praised his own cleverness. So, after all this time of observation, have you come to any conclusions? Selina asked curiously. The facts prove that Princess Nisha is indeed quite extraordinary, Wang Yunxiao said with certainty. Why? Selina's curiosity deepened. The reason is simple, she's overacting. Regardless of whether she's been merely a puppet pushed to the forefront these past few years, she should at least maintain a level of control, a true puppet. Wang Yunxiao explained with a smile, a glint in his eyes. In that case, we need to pay more attention to her in our next move, Selina murmured thoughtfully. We need to pay more attention to her. I strongly suspect she's not just putting on an act in front of us, but also in front of that machismo, Wang Yunxiao said with a hint of meaning. You mean? Hearing this, Selina's pupils shrank slightly, and she gasped. If what Wang Yunxiao said was true, she had underestimated Princess Nisha. Just imagine, someone who could pretend even in front of her own father, and do so for years. How deep must Princess Nisha's scheming be? Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 280, Establishing Authority, Part 1. Well, don't worry too much. Even if my suspicions are true, it has nothing to do with us directly. The one we should be more worried about is Duke Machacino. Seeing Selina's expression grow increasingly serious, Wang Yunxiao suddenly smiled, as if he had thought of something truly interesting. You're right, Selina was startled for a moment, then recovered and couldn't help but laugh, secretly berating herself for worrying too much. My dear, you might as well give it a try. See if you can subjugate her and use her as a thorn in our side against the ruling vampire party in Europe. After a moment's thought, Wang Yunxiao reminded her. I'll try, but the chances aren't great, Selina replied casually, not holding out much hope. Furthermore, deep down, she refused, unwilling to deal with such a scheming woman. Selene would be more suitable for such a matter. Thinking of Selina's eyes lit up again. If all else fails, you could ask Selene for help. I'm sure she'd be very interested in Princess Nisha. As if on cue, Wang Yunxiao mentioned Selene at the right moment. Well, I'll talk to Selene about this later. Selina readily accepted Wang Yunxiao's suggestion. She wasn't even planning to bother trying to tame Nisha anymore. She'd just find a chance to capture her and hand her over to Selene. Selina wanted to discuss Ali's conspiracy with Wang Yunxiao again, but Wang Yunxiao interrupted her. The night was long. Shouldn't we do something more interesting? The next night, Wang Yunxiao and Selina met what Nisha had mentioned as the blood guards specially created for Selina at Banquisno Castle. Guangfu, a bald, burly man with tattoos all over his face, Wei Lian, a red-haired, non-mainstream girl, a golden-haired, sunglasses-wearing male priest, an Asian yeti wielding a long sword, Chuba, a stern-faced man, Rehert, who boasted like a millionaire, and Nisha and Yasa, the entire Blood Guardian team, really had a who's who of all kinds. As for the claim that the Blood Guardian consisted of only a few of these individuals, according to Nisha, that was indeed the case, but who would believe it? Since they were specifically formed to counter Selina's shrinkage, there were only a few of them. No kidding, okay? Clearly, anyone chosen for this Blood Guardian team, and even brought before Wang Yunxiao and Selina, must have some real talent, otherwise, it would be a complete joke. However, any truly talented individual would also undoubtedly be rebellious, which made their initial meeting unpleasant. Hey, woman, are you the blood god from the Americans? You look pretty hot, but we're all skeptical. Are you worthy? As expected, Nisha had just introduced the Blood Guardians to Wang Yunxiao and Selina when Reinhardt, with his splayed legs, sauntered up to Selina and barked a challenge. Ha ha ha, the Blood Guardians erupted in laughter, their laughter undisguised in its mockery and defiance. Nisha didn't stop them, but stood aside, watching with interest. The next moment, the laughter abruptly ceased, and Reinhardt's towering figure flew backward like a cannonball. They didn't even see how Selina struck. Bang! With a dull thud, Reinhardt slammed heavily into the castle's stone wall, sinking deep into it and creating a massive, human-shaped crater. Swish, 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 all the Blood Guardians suddenly stood up, glaring at Selina with hostility, their eyes clearly filled with vigilance and fear. Seeing a full-scale conflict about to break out, Nisha remained calm and made no attempt to intervene. It was unclear what she was planning. Yasa, on the other hand, looked anxious and hesitated, seemingly afraid of Nisha, never daring to speak up. You bitch, you're courting death, soon. Reinhardt had freed himself from the rock wall, roaring angrily as he drew his pistol and pointed it at Selina. In an instant, the Blood Guardian's vision blurred, and Wang Yunxiao disappeared from their sight. This strange scene made them feel as if Wang Yunxiao wasn't even there. Bang! 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 A series of dull, loud noises echoed from behind them. When they hurried back to check, they were shocked and enraged to see Wang Yunxiao slamming Reinhardt's massive head into the stone wall again and again. The tall, muscular Reinhardt, in his hands, was like a defenseless child. "Hey, what are you doing? Stop it," the Blood Guardians shouted in unison. But Wang Yunxiao seemed oblivious, continuing to smash Reinhardt's massive head into the stone wall again and again. Well, it was just a vampire, an exceptionally strong one at that. Otherwise, his brains would have been shattered. "Stop it," Nisha said, seeing the Blood Guardians draw their weapons. She didn't want a real fight to ensue. Apparently, Wang Yunxiao gave Nisha a little face and stopped. But by then, Reinhardt's face was already covered in blood. "Hey, has anyone told you your mouth stinks?" The next moment, the Blood Guardians heard this demonic whisper. Then, before their very eyes, a scene unfolded, one that even these ferocious men found horrifying. Suddenly, Wang Yunxiao's hand materialized into a small, gleaming dagger. With a deft thrust and a yank, he thrust it into Reinhardt's mouth, releasing a bloody tongue. The Blood Guardians watched with rage, ready to charge and teach Wang Yunxiao a lesson. But fearing his ruthlessness and uncanny speed, they hesitated. "Come on. If you're afraid, come along." Unexpectedly, Wang Yunxiao tossed the throbbing Reinhardt aside and provoked the Blood Guardians. Wang Yunxiao's thinking was simple. Since he was about to lead this gang of monsters, he had to intimidate them enough to stop them from plotting behind his back. "You're courting death, go, kill him." How could the Blood Guard members tolerate this? They roared in anger and rushed towards Wang Yunxiao recklessly. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 281, Establishing Authority, Part 2. The Blood Guardians, thoroughly enraged by Wang Yunxiao, charged recklessly at him. From this point on, a clash was inevitable. However, before the Blood Guardians could reach Wang Yunxiao, a flash of black lightning flashed between them. Time seemed to stand still for a moment, and the figure left a trail of indistinguishable shadows beside each of them. Bang, 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 several muffled thuds echoed almost simultaneously, and the Blood Guardians were sent flying backwards, leaving a trail of devastation on the ground. This series of events unfolded so swiftly, in the blink of an eye. It wasn't until the Blood Guardians were sent flying that Nisha and Yasa realized the attacker wasn't Wang Yunxiao, but the impassive Selena. "Damn it! I'll kill you." The priest struggled to his feet, roaring angrily, but without the obscenities of Reinhardt. It seemed Wang Yunxiao's ruthless display had had some effect. Bang! Before the priest could react, everyone in the room heard another muffled thud, and he was sent flying once again. 2 consecutive blows left him unable to rise for a long time. This time, it was indeed Wang Yunxiao who struck. From where the priest had been, he glanced at each of the remaining Blood Guardians one by one with a smile, as if waiting for them to say something more. For a moment, no one dared to say a word. They all stood silently, looking at Wang Yunxiao and Selena with wary eyes. But would that work? Who among those who made it into the Blood Guardians wasn't a shrewd person? They might be unruly, impulsive, and easily angered, but the fact they were sent flying without a single reaction was enough to make them realize the vast disparity in strength between them, and naturally, they wouldn't seek further trouble. Stop! Just then, Nisha's voice finally arrived. She hadn't expected Wang Yunxiao and Selena to start fighting so quickly, and even if she wanted to, she couldn't stop them in time. What? Is this the end? What a bummer. Wang Yunxiao shrugged and walked back to Selena's side nonchalantly. As for Selena, she naturally maintained a cold expression throughout, refusing to even glance at these monsters, and she was equally rude to Nisha. Don't you think this is too much? Nisha demanded angrily. Excessive? I just want them to understand their place in society, so that we can work together more effectively in the future. Wang Yunxiao waved his hand nonchalantly. Nisha's dignity was shaky. The Blood Guardians cast angry glances at Wang Yunxiao, yet dared not make any provocative moves. Especially the unfortunate Reinhardt, who silently lowered his head, not daring to meet Wang Yunxiao's gaze. But from an angle Wang Yunxiao couldn't see, his eyes were filled with resentment. Put aside your meaningless anger. I simply want you to recognize one reality: this world is one where the strong always reign. Also, I hope today is the first and last time. Do not test our patience again. You will not be able to bear the consequences. At this moment, Wang Yunxiao's smile faded, becoming unusually serious and earnest. Hearing these words, some people's eyes grew even more furious, others unconsciously betrayed a hint of fear, and still others became lost in thought. Alright, now that we're all acquainted, let's get down to business. Then, without caring about their feelings, Wang Yunxiao took the initiative to change the subject. Mr. Wang, please speak. Seeing that Nissa had no intention of speaking and was simply glaring at Wang Yunxiao with an annoyed expression, Yasa hurriedly asked humbly. If we want to catch the hunter, we must first catch the prey. We can target those vampire gathering places at night, blood banks, nests, and so on. The larger the better. Where do you think is the most suitable? Wang Yunxiao already had a plan in mind and spoke immediately. House of Pain. After a moment's thought, Nissa spoke the name word by word. Since they were really discussing serious matters, as a representative of the Machicino family, she naturally couldn't afford to be petty. Okay. This is the place. We'll leave at this time tomorrow night. After all the excitement tonight, I'm sure everyone needs some time to calm down. Wang Yunxiao chuckled and, without giving Nissa a chance to speak, he and Selena left side by side. As Wang Yunxiao and Selena left, the members of the Blood Guard looked at each other, all with a look of gloom on their faces. They had intended to intimidate the enemy, but instead ended up looking utterly humiliated. They truly needed time to calm down. At this point, Reinhardt finally dared to raise his head, redonning his large sunglasses, effectively masking the lingering resentment in his eyes. However, although this so-called Blood Guard was only a makeshift group, they still had a certain understanding of each other. How could the others not be aware of Reinhardt's unwavering resolve? But none of this concerned Nisha. What irritated Nisha was that, given the current situation in Europe, every day of delay meant an unpredictable number of harvesters, which would inevitably complicate their subsequent operations. Right now, the most important thing for us is to eliminate those monsters as quickly as possible. Therefore, I don't want you to do anything irrational in your next operation. Do you understand? Nisha warned sternly, her cold gaze sweeping across each face. The members of the Blood Guard remained silent, their faces expressing varying expressions. As for whether they truly heeded Nisha's warning, and to what extent, only they themselves could tell. Nisha didn't care much and simply turned and left. She knew full well that these people were just a hastily assembled group of troublemakers, and there was no tacit understanding between them. More importantly, her prestige wasn't enough to convince them. Indeed, just as Wang Yunxiao and Selena had suspected, these monsters weren't actually members of the Blood Guardians at all, but merely improvised cannon fodder. Perhaps they were stronger than the real Blood Guardians, but the Blood Guardians needed disciplined elites, not these troublemakers who could cause trouble at any moment. And the real Blood Guardians weren't led by Nisha, they were always controlled by Elita Machicino. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 282 Sleepless Night. Ignoring the scumbags of the so-called Blood Guard, Wang Yunxiao suddenly felt inspired and dragged Selena out of the Chateau de la Majesté for a nighttime tour of Paris. They visited the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre, Notre Dame, the Palace of Versailles, and other famous landmarks. Many of these attractions were closed at night, but that wasn't a problem for them. Finally, they stopped by the Seine River and rented a yacht to enjoy the night's glittering lights. It was also a chance to shake off the stalkers who had been following them all night. Undoubtedly, these stalkers were most likely sent by the Majesnet family, perhaps other vampire families, or even the Vatican. Wang Yunxiao and Selena had no intention of hiding their whereabouts in Paris, so naturally, they couldn't hide from the major powers in the city, especially the vampire families. As for the Vatican, while Paris was the headquarters of Europe's ruling vampire party, its influence stretched across Europe and it had strongholds in Paris. As long as the European vampire ruling party didn't want to go to war with the church, they naturally wouldn't dare to touch this stronghold. However, this church stronghold usually kept a low profile, primarily focused on gathering intelligence nearby. How is it going? Have the dead apostles uncovered any deeper information? Wang Yunxiao and Selena lay side by side on the yacht's upper deck, gazing up at the starry sky. The atmosphere was romantic, but their conversation was rather depressing. Just as the Machicino family, and even more vampire families, would not give up their surveillance, Selena had been constantly intensifying her investigation and infiltration of the European vampire ruling party. In particular, After learning of the Machicino family's actions, she had focused her investigation and infiltration efforts on them. That old man, Eli, is extremely cautious. Aside from a few close associates, it's impossible for anyone else to know his true intentions, Selena replied calmly. Oh, Wang Yunxiao said nonchalantly. Neither Selena nor Wang Yunxiao seemed overly surprised by this. Anyone with a bit of common sense would agree, let alone someone as cunning as Ollie. But Number 7 just got word that the European Health International Consortium has made some discoveries. Then, Selena seemed to have a sudden thought, her eyes flickering with wonder. So fast, Wang Yunxiao was speechless, unable to help but marvel at the dead apostle's ability to act. They had only just discovered last night that the European Health International Consortium was secretly backed by the ruling European Vampire Party. And they'd already made such a discovery in just one day? This has nothing to do with the dead apostles, it was discovered by the Red Queen, Selena explained, clearly noticing Wang Yunxiao's surprise. The internet has become ubiquitous in Europe and America, and is now spreading globally. This has finally given the Red Queen and the White Queen an opportunity to flex their muscles. Not to mention that cybersecurity is still in its infancy, even in the highly advanced 21st century, it would be difficult to resist their intrusion. What discovery? Wang Yunxiao shrugged, knowing he was overthinking it. But at the same time, his curiosity grew even more intense. What had Red Queen uncovered? For Selena to ask Red Queen to intervene, the discovery must be extraordinary. The European Health International Consortium has long been covertly supporting secret laboratories around the world, and that Soviet experimental base is one of them. Selena's eyes grew intrigued, and her words were truly earth-shattering. Of course, Wang Yunxiao's surprise was mostly feigned. He was familiar with the original plot and knew it was all part of Ali's scheme, secretly researching the vampire virus. But there was one thing he didn't know, the Soviet experimental base was actually connected to Ali, something the plot never specifically mentioned. The thief crying stop thief, I never thought that Duke Machicino would stage this whole thing himself. It seems his real target is you. Wang Yunxiao's lips curled slightly in a dismissive arc. So what? He's only capable of some shady schemes. I'll make him reap what he sows. Selena had naturally grasped this, a chilling glint flashing across her eyes. That's right, he'll reap what he sows. I'm afraid that Duke Machicino is now in a difficult position. He certainly didn't anticipate the destructive power and spread of the harvesters to be so immense. Wang Yunxiao, however, had a deeper thought, and his disdain for Ali's future self-destructive consequences grew even stronger. HMPH. I'll personally take care of them, Selena snorted. She was referring to them, not him, clearly including the harvesters as well. It couldn't be helped, anyone would be deeply unhappy to be plotted against behind their backs. Alright, dear, don't be too angry. Trust me, they won't be able to keep up the fight for long. Let's not dwell on these disappointing matters and talk about something more cheerful. Wang Yunxiao patted Selena's delicate hand, offering a gentle, soothing voice. What are you going to do? Selena, knowing Wang Yunxiao well, immediately became alert. Such a beautiful scenery, of course, requires more meaningful activities. Wang Yunxiao smiled faintly, rolling over and pressing down on Selena's delicate body. With a wave of his hand, an invisible spatial barrier enveloped the two of them. To outsiders, they suddenly vanished from the yacht's upper deck. This night was destined to be another sleepless one. Wang Yunxiao and Selena were deeply immersed in the beautiful scenery, unaware that, because of them, many others were unable to sleep tonight. Your Excellency, our men have been lost, in the study beneath the Machicino castle. Carol Cunin reported to Alida Machicino on the situation of the men tracking Wang Yunxiao and Selena. Where did they go? Who did they meet? Alida asked calmly, not overly surprised by the result. The Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre, Notre Dame, the Palace of Versailles, the banks of the Seine, all perfectly ordinary places. We didn't interact with anyone, we just rented a yacht on the Seine, Carol replied in detail. Also, our people discovered that several other companies were also following them. After a moment's thought, Carol added. It's okay, they won't interfere with our plans. Alidar was slightly startled, then waved his hand dismissively. 4 updates for today. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 283, The House of Pain. On a dark and windy night, Wang Yunxiao, Selena, and Nisha were walking through the streets of an old, black neighborhood in Paris. This was what Nisha had mentioned as the House of Pain, one of the largest vampire colonies in Paris. As for Yasa and the other members of the Blood Guard, they had already gone in to investigate. Where's the entrance? No sign, no vampire statue. Wang Yunxiao glanced around, then glanced at Nisha beside him. No. Our customs here are different from yours. Let's take a closer look. As she spoke, Nisha pulled out a highly advanced night vision device and handed it to Wang Yunxiao. Wang Yunxiao easily spotted a vampire mark on the wall of the old building directly in front of him, a mark similar to the one tattooed on the bodies of the Hage. Interesting. You're really careful, huh? Wang Yunxiao chuckled and handed the device to Selena. However, Selena showed no interest in taking it. Wang Yunxiao shrugged, unconcerned. He'd forgotten Selena was trying to act cool, so why would she be staring around like a curious child? He returned the night vision goggles to Nissa. Let's go in too, she replied. Unexpectedly, Nissa took the goggles and walked forward. Okay, Wang Yunxiao was speechless for a moment, tossing the goggles into his pocket space. Then, to Wang Yunxiao's surprise, Nissa didn't lead them into the old building with the vampire mark, but instead to a dark alley off to the side. Then, as Wang Yunxiao silently watched, Nissa opened an iron door resembling an underground storage facility, revealing a long corridor and staircase. The three of them descended the staircase. The walls of the corridor were covered in bizarre, grimacing symbols, much like the graffiti on many exterior walls in black neighborhoods, a design that wouldn't arouse anyone's suspicion. It was truly a well-hidden place. Even an ordinary person who stumbled upon it wouldn't raise a single suspicion. Of course, they were more likely to become vampire food. Soon, the three arrived at a thick iron gate, flanked by two heavily armed men. We're about to enter a new world. I hope you won't be too surprised. I'm sure this is rare to see back home, Nissa said with a hint of pride as one of the men opened the iron gate for them. I hope so, Wang Yunxiao shrugged nonchalantly. The three passed through several more iron gates and finally arrived at their destination. Pounding music, dazzling laser lights, men and women in a state of near madness. Not bad, Wang Yunxiao offered a half-hearted compliment, meeting Nissa's somewhat challenging gaze. Next, we'll split up. Keep me informed if you find anything. Without giving Nissa a chance to object, Wang Yunxiao and Selena walked away. Easily, Wang Yunxiao spotted the figures of Yasa and his companions in the crowded dance floor. Indeed, these men, each armed and ammunition-laden, stood out against the revelers. However, this also suggested they were regulars. The men and women they passed were not only surprised by their unusual attire, but many even greeted them. Hey, guys, most of these aren't pure-blood vampires. Since we suspect this place, why don't we kill them all? No chance of any slipping through the net. Suddenly, the priest's playful words came over the intercom. This is a great opportunity. Kill them all, Reinhardt's voice echoed, his voice thick with murderous intent. Wang Yunxiao curled his lips in disdain. Knowing that the man's biggest ambition was to kill him and Selena, perhaps even secretly seeking an opportunity. Don't be ridiculous. There are many places like this in Paris. Are we going to kill them all? Then, Yasa's voice rang out. Okay, I was just kidding, the priest said nonchalantly. It's too noisy here. Let's go somewhere else. Listening to the group's brazen nonsense, Wang Yunxiao gave Selena a subtle wink. Okay, Selena nodded in understanding and followed Wang Yunxiao toward the nearby side door. With their super senses, they immediately detected the unusual noises beneath their feet upon entering the dance floor. Soon, the Blood Guardians dispersed, each searching for the suspicious individual. Everyone, be careful. I saw one, but he was so fast I lost him. After an indefinite pause, Yasa's stern warning echoed through his headset. Where are you? Who else is with you? Nisha demanded. I'm still on the dance floor. Oh, damn, Yasa stopped mid-sentence. What's wrong? You bastard, speak up. What's going on over there? The question was no longer directed at Nisha, but at Reinhardt. They've attacked the priests. Come and support them. Damn, how could there be so many? It wasn't Asa who replied, but Chuba. His voice was hurried, and he stopped mid-sentence, clearly already engaged in combat with the harvesters. Light Axe and I have also encountered one. You're on your own, Wei Lian said hurriedly, without a sound. With the exception of Light Axe and Wei Lian, all the other members of the Blood Guard immediately rushed to the dance floor to support the priests. By then, the dance floor was already in chaos. As the battle between Asa, Chuba, and the priests and several harvesters escalated. The revelers finally realized something was amiss and rushed frantically out of the dance floor. Assholes! Get out of here, Reinhardt cursed furiously, undoubtedly causing considerable trouble for him and the snowmen supporting Asa. As they made their way through the surging crowd, they saw the priest lying there, wounded by a harvester, uncertain whether he was dead or not. Yasa and Chuba were also surrounded by 5 or 6 harvesters, their situation precarious. Die! Die, all of you! Reinhardt angrily raised his modified heavy rifle and blasted one of the harvesters attacking Chuba away with a single shot. Without a word, the snowman rushed forward, knife in hand. Strangely, Nisha remained silent, and no one knew what had happened to her. As for Wang Yunxiao and Selena? What did their fate have to do with them? Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Chad Norma. Damn it. They're not afraid of silver bullets. Do you hear me, Chuba? Stop wasting bullets, Yasa shouted through his headset. Da. Chuba ignored him, aiming his modified Gatling gun at the harvesters before him, firing furiously. While the harvesters weren't afraid of silver bullets, they were still riddled with bullets under such intense fire. Not far away, the Yeti, each with his own slash, slew a harvester without a fight, finally pinning him to the wall with his long blade. Hiss, the harvester roared at the Yeti, then mounted upwards, heedless of his ripped lower body, scrambling along the wall. In a flash, he was gone, leaving behind a pool of foul-smelling yellow blood. Huh. So they're still afraid of ultraviolet rays. Come on, baby. Suddenly, Reinhardt's signature, arrogant laugh echoed through the headset again. While it was truly annoying, it served as a warning to Yasa and the others, making their next encounter with the Reaper much easier. Elsewhere, Light Axe, wielding his massive axe, easily dispatched a smaller Reaper. At least, that's what he thought. However, Light Axe underestimated his foe and rashly approached to examine the Reaper's body. The smaller Reaper was simply feigning death. Seeing Light Axe bend down, he suddenly attacked, scratching him and clinging to him. Light Axe tried to break free, but the Reaper's hands were coated in neurotoxins, leaving him feeling weak. No, Light Axe let out a despairing growl as he watched the smaller Reaper open his disgusting, flower-like mouth and bite his shoulder. Bang, bang, bang. Just as Light Axe was in utter despair, gunfire erupted, and blood splattered from the small harvester. Hiss, the small harvester roared, and with a few leaps, he vanished into thin air. Light Axe, you're bleeding. Were you bitten? Wei Lian, not bothering to chase the small harvester, quickly ran over to Light Axe, helped him up, and asked with concern. Huh? My back, he bit me on the back. Light Axe panted heavily, describing the location of the bite in a halting manner. He didn't hide anything, because he trusted Wei Lian not to betray him. Let me see. Wei Lian hurriedly examined Light Axe's wound, and indeed, she had no intention of betraying him. They had lived together for many years, and had long considered each other their everything. And just as Yasa and his companions were being pursued by dozens of harvesters, Nisha also faced a grave crisis, far greater than Yasa and his companions. Because the one coming after her was Chad Norma, the leader of the harvesters. After just a few rounds of fighting, Nisha was easily subdued by Chad. There was no way around it, the difference in strength between them was already significant, and Chad had attacked first. But just as Nisha, feeling desperate and about to reveal her true colors, was surprised to find that Chad didn't seem to intend to harm her. He simply covered her mouth and gestured to silence her. Little did Nisha know that Chad was not only the leader of the harvesters, but also Elita Machusina's eldest son and her brother. And this, from the beginning, was a conspiracy orchestrated by her kind father. Of course, Chad, now in his current state, no longer cared about blood ties. The only reason he didn't immediately attack Nisha was because, oh, what a coincidence, you're here too. At that moment, a playful voice echoed in their ears. Then, the door flung open, and Wang Yunxiao and Selena walked in side by side. Why are you looking for trouble with me? Have I offended you? Chad demanded angrily. It was true, he had long been aware of Wang Yunxiao and Selena's proximity, And the reason he hadn't rushed to harm Nessa was because he feared making too much noise and alerting them. Isn't this the outcome you were hoping for? Wang Yunxiao asked meaningfully. This has nothing to do with me, Chad growled angrily. He knew what Wang Yunxiao meant, but that was before. Everything was different after he had truly become the monster he was now. Shouldn't the enemy of my enemy be a friend? We have a common enemy. Even if we can't be friends, there's no need to be enemies, right? Chad asked expectantly, calming down slightly. Huh? You're not unreasonable. Wang Yunxiao deliberately acted agitated to attract Chad's attention. Selena, in tune with Wang Yunxiao's thoughts, suddenly struck with lightning speed, reaching Chad in the blink of an eye, her Nepali knife thrust straight at his head. In reality, even if Wang Yunxiao hadn't distracted Chad, Selena would have attacked anyway. As for whether or not she'd accidentally injured Nisha, what was she doing? Sure enough, Chad wasn't fooled. With a powerful push, he pushed Nisha towards Selena. Simultaneously, he quickly dodged to Selena's side, extending his hands, laced with neurotoxin, and scrabbled towards her. Bang! With a muffled thud, Selena dodged Nisha's charge, dodging Chad's attack as well, allowing Nisha to crash heavily into the wall. This demonstrated the immense force of Chad's push. Bang! Another muffled thud sent Chad flying backward, slamming into the wall as well. Hey, look, have you forgotten about me? Just then, Wang Yunxiao's abhorrent, playful voice rang out in Chad's ears. Chad didn't fight back, but instead slammed through the wall and sped away. Selena, Wang Yunxiao, we'll see each other again. Chad's venomous roar still echoed in the room. From beginning to end, Wang Yunxiao and Selena showed no interest in pursuing him, simply watching him disappear into the vast night. Why did you let him go? At this moment, Nisha stood up, ignoring the pain from the collision and immediately questioning Wang Yunxiao and Selena. Hey, don't talk nonsense. We didn't let him go. He just ran so fast that we couldn't stop him, Wang Yunxiao shouted exaggeratedly. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 285 A game? Why let him go? Why not go after him? Unable to be dismissed like this by Wang Yunxiao, Nisha demanded again, her voice stern. Miss Nisha, first of all, please remember this, we are not your subordinates. Do you have the right to interfere with what we do and don't do? Wang Yunxiao dropped his playful laughter and spoke seriously. So, you admit it, Nisha sneered, her gaze undimmed. Besides, simply eliminating Chad Norma won't do us any good. Not only will it fail to solve the actual problem, it will only make those monsters even more uncontrollable, potentially leading to even greater chaos. Wang Yunxiao didn't bother to pay any more attention to Nisha. After finishing what he wanted to say, he and Selena left. HMPH. Cunning fellow. Nisha's expression flickered as she watched Wang Yunxiao and Selena leave, her expression instantly changing, her previous anger gone. Damn Chad Norma, damn him. Immediately, Nisha began to curse Chad Norma again. From her tone, it seemed as if she wasn't completely clueless about Chad's identity. She just wondered how much Nisha knew. When Wang Yunxiao and Selena returned to the dance floor, only Yasa and the others were left. The noise was still raging. Though subdued by Yasa and Chuba, the priest continued to struggle, his shrill howls emanating from his lips. Wang Yunxiao and Selena immediately understood why, but they didn't bother to care. How long has he been bitten? Nisha soon followed, coldly asking. About 20 minutes, Yasa replied dejectedly. Damn it. His skin is burning hot and has already begun to transform. Chuba suddenly cursed loudly, revealing the priest's current state. The priest's wails grew increasingly shrill. Damn it. Someone make her shut up. Reinhardt paced back and forth impatiently, complaining loudly. This wasn't to say he and the priest had a particularly close relationship, rather, the wailing was unnerving, adding to the already frightened group's inevitable grief. Swish, Chuba gave Reinhardt a cold look, then suddenly pulled out his modified pistol and pressed it against the priest's heart. Kill me, Chuba, the priest cried out with difficulty. Fearless man, Chuba muttered softly, turning his head away, as if he couldn't bear to see the priest die at his hands. Unlike Reinhardt, he and the priest had some friendship. Bang, 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 Chuba fired several times, and the priest's wailing ceased abruptly. However, it seemed a little too late. The priest, who should have been dead, suddenly saw his jaw split open, transforming into a disgusting, flower-shaped mouth that sprang up and bit Chuba's arm. Fortunately, Yas's quick eyes and hands subdued the priest, who had become a harvester, preventing Chuba from being slain as well. Hiss! The priest let out a piercing roar and struggled violently, even with Yasa and Chuba struggling. Come on, give him a quick death. Snowman, lend me your sword. Reinhardt, unable to bear it any longer, strode towards the priest, addressing the snowman. The snowman glanced at Reinhardt silently, then drew his longsword from his waist and tossed it to him. Hey, what are you doing? You're not going to kill him like this. Nisha, seeing what Reinhardt was about to do, shouted coldly. Yasa, Chuba, hold him down, but Reinhardt ignored Nisa and chopped off half of the priest's head with a single blow. The scene was truly bloody. However, even then, the priest survived. Though unable to scream, he continued to struggle violently. At least this will stop our ears from suffering. Reinhardt glanced at Nissa and casually tossed a long knife back to the snowman. Nissa's face flared, but she knew the timing was wrong and forced herself to hold back. Wang Yunxiao and Selena had been watching coldly, but they understood that Reinhardt was using this as a way to demonstrate his power to them. He was just a little wary, not wanting to show it too obviously. Hey, aren't these monsters afraid of ultraviolet light? After waiting a moment, Wang Yunxiao was speechless, seeing that they had no solution. Not wanting to waste any more time, he couldn't help but warn them. Bang! Bang! Chuba, realizing something, fired back twice, blasting the ceiling, instantly creating a large hole. A beam of sunlight streamed in, illuminating the priest and reducing him to a pool of blood. We've investigated. Those monsters are probably hiding in the sewers here. Get ready. We'll come back tonight and take them all out. Seeing the matter resolved, Wang Yunxiao said this calmly before leaving with Selena. However, before leaving, Wang Yunxiao cast a meaningful glance at Rongfu and Wei Lian, who remained completely unresponsive. As for why these two were acting this way, need I explain? The battle in the House of Pain had barely ended when news reached Castle Machisno. It was still the same study in the castle's basement, and it was still Alita Machisno and Kalo Kunin, the only difference being that Alita was dining. The old man was quite the master, congealing blood into steak-like shapes, then cutting it into small pieces with a knife and fork, slowly feeding it to his mouth. They're engaging the harvester, Kalo said respectfully. Are there any casualties? Alita asked calmly. So far, there's only one person, the priest, Karo replied. Your Excellency, this game is far too dangerous. After a brief hesitation, Karo couldn't help but warn. Well, in the eyes of the two, this was nothing more than a dangerous game. But who knew, would they eventually get themselves caught up in the game? Whether it's Council President Selena or the God of War, we can't truly control them. Karo carefully chose his words, yet still made his concerns clear. You're overthinking it, Karo. According to the insider's report, continue with the plan, Ali interrupted Karo calmly. But we've already lost one person. If we continue, Karo couldn't help but argue, but was interrupted again by Ali. They sacrificed themselves for our vampire's greater plan. As long as we can eliminate Selena and Wang Yunxiao, the two greatest threats, even if they all died, it would be worth it. Including Nisha, Ali gave Karo a cold look and said in a low voice. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 286 The show begins. As night fell, Wang Yunxiao and Selena, led by Nisha, arrived at a spacious armory. The Blood Guardians, including Yasa, Chuba, Reinhardt, Snowman, Light Axe, and Wei Lian, were all present, organizing their equipment. Compared to last night, these men were truly fully armed tonight, wearing hard shell armor made of special materials, and their modified guns were equipped with ultraviolet filters. Now that they knew the Reaper's weakness, they naturally had to be more prepared. What's this? Wang Yunxiao asked curiously, walking over to the weapons display and picking up a spherical object. Ultraviolet grenade. Just press here to emit a large amount of ultraviolet light, Nisha explained, demonstrating it. Of course, Nisha wouldn't actually demonstrate it, unless she was looking for death. Aside from Wang Yunxiao and Selena, no one in the armory was immune to ultraviolet light. Not bad. I'll take some too, Wang Yunxiao smiled, unceremoniously putting away 2 full boxes. Nisha didn't comment on this. The Machicino family, with their wealth and power, naturally wouldn't care about these UV grenades. However, these UV grenades were originally intended to be used against the North American Vampire Council. Now that Wang Yunxiao and Selena had discovered them, they needed to prepare early, as there was no guarantee they wouldn't develop similar weapons. In reality, Nisha's concerns were completely unnecessary. Not to mention, these gadgets wouldn't faze Howard, the weapons expert. Countless other specialized weapons, even more powerful than these, had already been developed. More importantly, with the continuous advancements in the Dead Apostle Serum, it wasn't impossible for American vampires to one day no longer be vulnerable to UV rays, or to exploit some other vulnerability. Also, keep this, Nisha then took up a small jet and handed it to Wang Yunxiao. What is this? Wang Yunxiao examined the jet in his hand, but he didn't rush to use it, as he already had a guess. Pheromones, extracted from the monster's adrenal glands, will attract them all. Sure enough, Nisha's answer was exactly as Wang Yunxiao had guessed. It was a good thing he hadn't tried it, or he would have been nauseated by the pungent smell. You've prepared quite thoroughly. Wang Yunxiao glanced at Nisha meaningfully, but he didn't bother asking where they found the harvester and extracted it from the monster's adrenal glands. Even if he had asked, all he would have gotten were empty lies. It's almost time, shouldn't we set off? Nisha asked Wang Yunxiao again, seeing that Yasa and the others were ready. After all, they were nominally under the leadership of Wang Yunxiao and Selena, so they had to put on a show. Of course, as long as you're ready, Wang Yunxiao shrugged indifferently, his tone pointed. HMPH, Nisha snorted, her face darkening as she glared at Wang Yunxiao. Of course, she could tell that Wang Yunxiao's unfinished words were about whether they were prepared to die. But it was undeniable that this was the truth. Whether Nisha wanted to admit it or not, she knew full well that her chances of survival tonight were extremely slim, even for her. She had now been pushed out by her respected father, like everyone else, to be used as cannon fodder. Move, with Nisha's command, the expressions of Yasa and the others grew serious. Perhaps these people had some flaws in their character, but they were not fools. And how could they not see their current predicament? No one knew how many Reapers there were. Could they, with just a few of them, wipe out all of them? They were simply sending them to their deaths. Unfortunately, the Machicino family was simply too powerful, leaving them powerless to resist. Otherwise, their fate would be worse than death. Plop, plop, the group descended into the dark, dank sewers one after another, their feet splashing in the water, a sound that was particularly clear in the silence. Next, let's split up and explore different directions, Nisha suggested after carefully observing the interconnected sewers. Everyone nodded in agreement, no one objecting to Nisha's proposal. Everyone, wish you the best. I hope to see you again after tonight. How? Wang Yunxiao glanced around at everyone with a half-smile, lingering for a moment longer on Guangfu and Wei Lian before leaving alongside Selena. Bah. We'll have to kill those two bastards sooner or later, Reinhardt spat, cursing angrily. Shut up. Don't forget our main purpose tonight, Nisha glared at Reinhardt coldly and left with Yasa. Damn bitch, Reinhardt cursed under his breath again, watching Nisha's retreating figure with resentment. He had long been annoyed with Nisha, the woman who, relying on her status, always bossed him around. Man, I urge you to think carefully about how you're going to survive tonight. Chuba patted Reinhardt's arm and departed in his own direction. HMPH. I hope you all die a miserable death. Reinhardt, knowing no other than the sarcasm in Chuba's words, felt a pang of hatred for him. Now, Reinhardt was the only one left. As for Light Axe, Wei Lian, and Snowman, they had already quietly departed. A sinister glint flickered in Reinhardt's eyes, and for some unknown reason, he chased after Wang Yunxiao and Selena. Bang, 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 in the silent sewers, rapid gunfire suddenly rang out, clearly audible even from a distance. I wonder who had such bad luck, encountering the harvester so soon? However, I'm afraid everyone was mistaken. It wasn't someone who encountered the harvester, but Light Axe, who had ultimately been infected and become one of them. Wei Lian's eyes gleamed with deep pain as he stared at the ferocious Light Axe before him, but his hands moved without hesitation, his muzzle blazing with flames. Unfortunately, the special bullets failed to leave even a scratch on Light Axe's hard armor. Even with a UV filter on the muzzle, they were equally unable to penetrate the thick armor. Wei Lian, Light Axe roared low, advancing step by step. At this moment, Wei Lian was truly despairing, not only because of his impending fate, but also because, boom, amidst the violent explosion, blinding ultraviolet light filled the air. Today's fourth update is here. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 287, Total Defeat. Wang Yunxiao and his group delved into the dark, dank sewers, intent on catching the Reapers in one fell swoop. However, before they could even encounter them, they'd already lost two of their own. However, aside from Wang Yunxiao, who was familiar with the plot, the others were unaware of this situation and simply assumed someone had encountered a Reaper. Who is it? What's the situation? Sure enough, Nissa's voice rang through the headset. After a long wait, no response came. From the direction of the gunfire, it should be Guang's and Wei Lian's direction. Chuba's speculation echoed through the headset. Guang's, Wei Lian, what's going on over there? Nissa asked again, her tone growing even more anxious. Still, no one heard a response from Guang's or Wei Lian. At this moment, even the dumbest of them could easily conclude that something had happened to these two. A bad start. Nisha and the others' hearts sank. This was only the beginning. Would their fate be the same as Guang's and Wei Lian's? Just then, another burst of intense gunfire erupted. Damn it! How could there be so many? Then, Chuba's curses filled his headset. It seemed that this time, he had truly been targeted by the Reapers, and in quite a large number. I have them here too, a lot of them, not only Chuba, but even the usually taciturn Snowman exclaimed in surprise, demonstrating the severity of his situation. However, Nisha's voice remained silent in the headset. It seemed that she and Yasa had also encountered considerable trouble. Not only these people, but also Wang Yunxiao and Selena had been targeted by a large group of Reapers. Hiss, hiss, these ugly creatures emitted a piercing roar, their faces grim and drooling, and were as disgusting as could be. Be careful, Wang Yunxiao whispered to Selena. He wasn't worried about Selena getting hurt by these hideous creatures, but even a single accidental contact would be enough to make them sick for a long time. Moreover, with their superhuman senses, how could they fail to detect the tail that was always watching them from the shadows? Hiss, the next moment, several harvesters rushed towards Wang Yunxiao and Selena. These ugly creatures might look disgusting, but their agility was no less than that of Yasa and the others. Moreover, their sheer numbers multiplied their potential lethality. Unfortunately, these ugly creatures encountered Wang Yunxiao and Selena, and they were not going to be defeated by sheer numbers. Swish, a sharp cold light swept out, slicing away all the harvesters that rushed towards them. However, these hideous creatures were incredibly resilient, each one like an indestructible cockroach. Even when cut in half, they refused to die, their screams only becoming more piercing, tormenting the two men's ears. Even more unbearable was the spurting yellow blood and the pungent stench it emitted. Fortunately, I just got a lot of UV grenades from Nisha, Wang Yunxiao chuckled, then immediately pulled out a whole box of them from his personal space and distributed a number to Selena. Unlike Nisha and the others, the two used these UV grenades with unbridled abandon. The narrow sewer erupted in a burst of blinding UV radiation. Oh, damn! This bastard couple! Amidst the explosions, a bitter curse pierced the air. Seeing Wang Yunxiao and Selena surrounded by a swarm of harvesters, Reinhardt, who had been secretly following them, thought this was another opportunity and instinctively moved closer. He also saw Wang Yunxiao produce the UV grenade, but it was too late to dodge. He couldn't help but yell in pain. This truly proved the saying, "Don't seek death, and you won't die." How could Wang Yunxiao endure this? He vanished in an instant, and when he reappeared, he was already close to Reinhardt. "What are you doing? Damn it, don't come near me." Reinhardt was startled by Wang Yunxiao's sudden appearance before him. Seeing the activated UV grenade in Wang Yunxiao's hand, he was terrified and screamed in fear. "You've never tasted this before, have you? I'll give you a good time today," Wang Yunxiao said with a smile. But to Reinhardt, it sounded like the whisper of a demon. No, the blinding UV light burst, and Reinhardt only had time to let out a shrill wail before he melted completely, not even a bone left. Reinhardt's final wail echoed far away, heard clearly by Nissa and the others. Unfortunately, they were now surrounded by a swarm of Reapers, so how could they care about Reinhardt's life or death? When Wang Yunxiao returned to Selena, all the Reapers had been completely destroyed by her. "Let's go see Princess Nissa. I really want to see if she refuses to remove her disguise until her death," Wang Yunxiao suggested with a faint smile. "You?" Selena gave Wang Yunxiao a sullen look, but didn't object. Meanwhile, the battles at the other locations were also drawing to a close. Both Chuba and the Yeti were completely cornered by the swarms of Reapers, unable to even attempt to perish alongside them. Perhaps these two wouldn't die, but their fate would be worse than death, as they would become part of the Reapers. As for Nisha and Yasa, their situation was equally precarious, especially since they were already surrounded by the Harvesters. Princess Nisha, hurry and leave. Yasa, truly loyal, fought tooth and nail to carve a bloody path, giving Nisha hope of escape. Furthermore, as Nisha struggled to escape, Yasa even sacrificed himself to stop all the Harvesters that sought to pursue her. Boom! A dazzling burst of ultraviolet light shone through, illuminating the dark sewers like daylight. Nisha gritted her teeth and strode away without looking back. Though she didn't look back, she was aware of what was happening behind her, as a small portion of her face was also burned by the ultraviolet light. The excruciating pain still prevented her from uttering a single cry. Unfortunately, those Harvesters who had managed to escape the UV grenade cleansing attack were unwilling to let Nisha go and pursued her closely. Furthermore, more Harvesters were converging on Nisha from all directions. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 288 Machisno's Ambition. Nisha desperately fled ahead, a swarm of Harvesters relentlessly pursuing her. Furthermore, more Harvesters were closing in from all sides. Soon, Nisha was once again trapped, surrounded by a ditch, with no escape. Watching the dense swarm of Harvesters gradually approaching her, Nisha's eyes flickered with intense struggle, but for some reason, she remained silent. Tisk, tisk, you're so patient. You won't even drop your disguise, Wang Yunxiao sighed from a distance. Selena stood beside him, watching the whole thing unfold with an expressionless face. However, the two of them were in an alternate dimension, able to see everything outside clearly, while Nisha and the Harvesters were unaware of their presence. Want to help her? Selena asked softly, a glint of light in her eyes. At that moment, she truly admired Nisha's resilience. But how could she survive this crisis? Looks like we won't have to do anything. Wang Yunxiao's expression suddenly shifted, and the words on the tip of his tongue faltered. He threw up his hands helplessly. Selena said nothing more. She was naturally aware of what Wang Yunxiao had noticed. Da-da-da. At that moment, a burst of gunfire rang out, and heavily armed vampires swarmed in. Ultraviolet liquid bullets? Looks like these are the real blood guards. Watching the Ash Reavers one by one, Wang Yunxiao immediately identified these vampires. Indeed, every bullet fired from their guns was an ultraviolet liquid bullet, and the devastating impact on the Reapers was truly terrifying. In just a few minutes, all the Reapers present were wiped out, and not a single one escaped. Nisha stared in astonishment at the vampires who had pulled her back from the brink of death. She seemed about to say something, but perhaps from the severity of her injuries, her eyes closed and she collapsed to the ground, completely unconscious. Send Princess Nisha back. Just then, another familiar face of Wang Yunxiao and Selena approached from behind and gave a calm order. It wasn't Kalo Kunin, so who else could it be? Clear this place. Don't let a single R escape. Watching Nisha being carried away by several vampires, Kalo gave his final, cold order. Yes, the vampires quickly split into several smaller teams, proceeding in an orderly fashion. Tell me, did Princess Nisha foresee this? In the other dimension, Wang Yunxiao glanced sideways at Selena. Selena didn't respond, only glaring coldly at the well-trained vampires and their leader, Kalo. Whatever you want to do, just do it. I support you. Wang Yunxiao smiled softly and said gently. No need. Let's settle accounts with them once we return to Machisno Castle. After a brief hesitation, Selena gave up on the idea of taking action now. If nothing else, it was time for those ugly Reapers to leave. If they continued to spread, they would sooner or later cause a bigger mess. Then let's go. Wang Yunxiao didn't care. He took Selena's hand and, along with the entire alternate dimension, disappeared silently from the spot. It was as if the two of them had never existed from the beginning to the end. In a bedroom in the basement of Machisno Castle, Nisha suddenly woke from her coma. She carefully checked her surroundings, but was shocked to find that she had returned to her most familiar bedroom. Her injuries had been treated, her body had been cleaned, and she had changed into a clean and fresh set of home clothes. What's wrong? My dear daughter, suddenly, Elida Machisno's voice echoed from the side of the bedroom. I've disappointed you, father. Nisha took a deep breath and said softly. I've brought shame upon our family. Nisha slowly walked over to Elida's side, nestling into his lap like a little girl who had done something wrong, hoping for forgiveness and comfort. No, daughter. You've done well. Alita gently stroked Nisha's hair, acting like a loving father, giving no sign that he had sent his daughter to this desperate situation. For a moment, a gentle warmth filled the bedroom, a touching scene of loving father and filial daughter. But was this really the case? Come, my dear daughter, it's time for you to know the truth, whether it was out of guilt or some other motive. Alita wanted to tell Nisha the truth. Father, Nisha looked at Alita, puzzled. Come with me. Alita took Nisha's hand and left her bedroom. Soon, father and daughter passed through numerous heavily guarded checkpoints and arrived at a secret, high-tech laboratory. Nisha's face remained filled with amazement throughout the journey. She had never been here before. Come and see my brilliant achievements. Alita walked to a sealed laboratory chamber and pressed a button, slowly revealing the contents. For years, I've worked tirelessly to eliminate the fatal genetic weakness of our vampires. I discovered that recombinant DNA is the only viable solution. As he spoke, Alita removed a square crystal from the chamber. The crystal was filled with red liquid, and inside it was an embryo. Norma, your brother was the first experiment, but unfortunately, he was a defective one. Speaking of Chad Norma, even Alita, known for his cunning and scheming nature, a hint of unnaturalness crossed his face. Father, what are you talking about? That Chad Norma, leader of the Harvesters, is actually my brother. Nisha was completely stunned, staring at Alita in disbelief. It's a shame I didn't capture Selena this time. Otherwise, I would have had a perfect experiment in my hands in no time. Alita didn't respond to Nisha's question, as if he didn't want to mention Chad anymore. He simply continued to speak to himself, his words filled with deep regret. If we had a perfect experiment, we vampires would be immune to silver, and even no longer afraid of ultraviolet rays, and could walk under the sun with honor. Then, the whole world would prostrate at our feet. Alita's words grew more and more excited, and the regret on his face deepened. Well, this is another madman who wants to rule the world. Please add it to your collection, recommend it, and vote for it. Chapter 289. A good show. Nisha stared at Alita Marquesino in amazement, astonished not only by Chad Norma's identity but also by Alita's seemingly grand ambitions. However, Nisha hadn't anticipated what was yet to come. I need your help, my dear daughter, Alita solemnly addressed Nisha, his eyes filled with undisguised anticipation. Father, what do you mean? Nisha stared at Alita in disbelief, a suspicion already forming in her mind, a suspicion she hadn't dared to imagine until now. My dear daughter, perhaps you haven't noticed, but Wang Yunxiao seems quite interested in you. Furthermore, you are the princess of the Marquesino family, backed by the entire European vampire ruling party. Your status and position are undoubtedly no less than Selena's. I hope you can snatch Wang Yunxiao away from Selena, and then, sure enough, Alita's next words confirmed Nisha's suspicions. Selena's origins have always been shrouded in mystery, and now, inexplicably, she has become the president of the North American Vampire Council. Many outsiders believe she was simply pushed to the forefront by Wang Yunxiao. As for Selena's status as the blood god, opinions vary, with some skeptical and others skeptical. After all, vampires throughout North America recognize her as such. However, they all agree, Wang Yunxiao somehow achieved this status. In short, in the eyes of these people, especially the ruling European Vampire Party, Selena is a puppet pushed to the forefront by Wang Yunxiao. Clearly, Alida believes in Selena's status as the blood god, otherwise, he wouldn't have painstakingly pursued Selena's DNA to perfect his experiments. And then have Wang Yunxiao capture Selena and bring her to you, Nisha interrupted expressionlessly before Alida could finish his words. However, her back was turned to Alida, so he couldn't see her expression. Right. You're the princess of Marquesino. If I want to marry you, I naturally have to offer a suitable gift. Alida continued to talk, his words making more and more sense, as if he had already witnessed the scene of Selena being captured before him. Isn't that all? By then, the entire North American Vampire Council will naturally fall into your hands. Dad, have you ever considered whether I like that Wang Yunxiao? Nisha interrupted Alida again, asking quietly. Why not? Wang Yunxiao rose to fame during World War II, and now he's the mastermind behind the Umbrella Corporation and the Hellfire Club. If those idiots in North America hadn't proactively provoked him, Selena wouldn't have been able to rise to power with his help. Alida was clearly displeased by the repeated interruptions from Nisha, and even more furious when he mentioned the North American Vampire Council. Daughter, for the honor of the Marquesino family, for the honor of our bloodline, You must fall in love with him, and make him fall in love with you. At the end, Alita even went so far as to invoke the honor of the entire vampire race. No one knows a daughter better than her father. Alita knew Nisha's character well, knowing that she always prioritized the honor of the Machisno family, and indeed, the entire vampire race, above all else. Father, haven't you considered that a man like Wang Yunxiao wouldn't be swayed by personal feelings? He wouldn't be manipulated by you, Nisha couldn't help but argue. She didn't think this was a good idea, on the contrary, she considered it a terrible one. In the ancient East, there's a saying. Even a hero can't resist a beautiful woman, he's an Oriental, too. However, Alita was completely lost in his own thoughts. Not only would he not listen to any advice, but he could find countless excuses to justify himself. Dad, I've always respected you, trusted you with my will, my life, even my everything. But what I never expected was that you try to push me into this pit of fire. For your mad ambition, you've been using me, your own flesh and blood. At this moment, Nisha finally couldn't hold back and erupted in accusations. You're right, daughter, Alita, enraged, grabbed Nisha's neck and spoke coldly. In our race, compared to power, what does the bond of blood mean? Who do you think God favors? The prey? Or the hunter? Seeing the disappointment and determination in Nisha's eyes, Alita completely lost his fatherly facade. Since soft tactics didn't work, he decided to resort to hard tactics. Hadn't Chad Norma been like that before? However, what neither Alita nor Nisha knew was that their entire performance, from the father's loving daughter to the heartless and heartless, was being watched meticulously by Wang Yunxiao and Selena. From beginning to end, they sat a few meters away from the father and daughter in a different dimension, silently admiring the drama. However, as captivating as the show was, one person on the scene felt rather awkward. Especially with Selena's occasional half-smiles. Nonsense. When did I become a burning pit? Isn't that right, dear? Wang Yunxiao sternly rebuked the irresponsible remarks, then glanced at Selena ingratiatingly. Really? I think she's quite right, Selena retorted bluntly. Wang Yunxiao was speechless for a moment, having known this would happen. Also, someone's offering their daughter to you. Are you feeling smug? Or have you been planning this from the beginning, and now is the perfect time for you two to hit it off? And Selena clearly wasn't about to let Wang Yunxiao off. It was no wonder Selena was so irritated. Anyone constantly being schemed against was being schemed against, and it wasn't just her, but her lover too. If Wang Yunxiao hadn't told her there was an even more exciting drama to come, she'd have stormed out and hacked Ollie into pieces. Are you kidding me? Honey, believe me, I really don't have any feelings for her. I've told you that before. Wang Yunxiao was so aggrieved, mentally cursing Ali and Nisha countless times. Really? Selena looked at Wang Yunxiao doubtfully. Really? I promise. Wang Yunxiao promised with such earnestness that he practically swore an oath to the heavens. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 290, a series of wonderful performances. Beep, beep. Just as Wang Yunxiao racked his brains, trying to figure out how to extricate himself from the situation of being the only one caught in the crossfire, a shrill alarm suddenly blared in the lab. Here they come. Wang Yunxiao's eyes lit up, and he quickly warned Selena. At that moment, he felt that Chad Norma's ugly face no longer looked so disgusting. Your Excellency, Norma is here, and our men are no match for him. The lab's subway door slowly opened, and Kalo Kunin hurried in, anxiously saying, where are the blood guards? Can't they catch that bastard either? Alida Amachasino demanded angrily. No way. Norma is different from the ordinary R variants. It seems he's undergone a secondary mutation and is no longer afraid of ultraviolet rays, Kalo replied anxiously, quickly moving to the monitor and operating it. How is this possible? Alida exclaimed in disbelief. No one knew better than him how low the chances of a second mutation were, otherwise, why would he have bothered searching for Selena's DNA? Meanwhile, Chad's figure appeared on the monitor. Facing the heavily armed and well-trained Blood Guardians, he was unstoppable. The UV liquid bullets hitting him caused no immediate harm, while every member of the Blood Guardians present was vulnerable to his spray. That's it. This is the perfect experiment I wanted. Norma really didn't disappoint. Seeing Chad's figure on the screen, Ollie's eyes widened, and he muttered excitedly, forgetting his previous words about calling him a bastard. My Lord Duke, this isn't the time for this. We must leave immediately, Caro said, speechless. He had been the executor of Ollie's scheme from beginning to end, and he knew full well how much Chad hated his father. No. Let him come. I think we can talk peacefully. Alita rejected the idea without a second thought, completely lost in his own fantasy, believing that relying on his father's status could once again persuade Chad. Seeing Alita's utterly self-righteousness once again, Nissa's lips flickered with a quick, sarcastic smile, and then her eyes flickered. Who knew what she was planning? Your Excellency. Norma is extremely unstable right now. He won't listen to anything you say. We should retreat and wait until he calms down, then find an opportunity to talk to him properly. Caro was nearly driven mad with anxiety. If he hadn't already been tied to Alita's ship, he wouldn't have cared about Alita's life or death and would have escaped on his own. Not only in the ruling vampire party of Europe, but also in the North American Vampire Council, there is a strict hierarchy. This applies to both pure-blooded and non-pure-blooded vampires, and even more so to vampires and the Hargs. If Kalo chose to betray Alita and escape alone, even if he managed to escape with his life now, he would inevitably face the bloody retaliation of Europe's ruling vampire party, a fate worse than death. This, Alita wasn't completely foolish, and he was even more afraid of death than anyone else, so he hesitated. Dad, at that moment, Chad's frantic roar echoed from nearby, clearly audible to Alita and the others in the lab. The roar was filled with deep hatred, as if he wanted to devour his target alive. Let's go. Alita's expression changed drastically. No longer afraid to hesitate, he quickly pressed a button on the console. Boom. First, the heavy alloy door of the lab slammed shut. At the same time, a small door opened on the other side of the lab, providing direct access to the castle's helicopter pad. Alita and Kalo rushed towards the small door. At this moment, Alita's steps were so brisk that he couldn't even see the slightest sign of old age. But for some reason, Nissa remained standing, showing no sign of leaving with Alita and the others. Alita noticed this, but he was preoccupied with his own escape, so he couldn't possibly care less about Nissa's apparent suffering. Clang. Just as Alita and the others reached the cautious door, the alloy iron gate suddenly slammed shut. You're crazy, Alita glared at Nissa furiously. I am, but you've driven me mad, my beloved father. Nissa's expression was impassive, as she met Alita's gaze without yielding. We're all going to die. Darling, stop being so stubborn. Open the door. Trust me, I won't force you to do anything you don't like, Alita growled angrily, then realized this would only further infuriate Nissa, and quickly softened his tone. Princess Nisha, we can talk later. Open the door. If we're late, we'll all die, Kalo urged anxiously. Isn't it sad, my beloved father? You didn't die at the hands of the enemy, but at the hands of your own children. Nisha wasn't fooled by Alita's fatherly facade. She ignored Kalo and continued to speak to herself, her tone filled with sarcasm and sorrow. Dad, before Alita could say anything else, Chad's furious roar echoed from behind the heavy alloy door. What followed was a scene that terrified Alita and the others. Chad actually lifted the heavy alloy door, bit by bit. Boom. As Chad dove into the laboratory, the heavy door slammed down. Dad, Chad slowly approached Alita, the hatred in his eyes so thick it seemed to take on a physical form, like a vast ocean, ready to drown Alita at any moment. Norma, my dearest son, I know that what happened to you was a terrible tragedy, an unforgivable mistake. But now, you've achieved a perfect second mutation. Believe me, you can not only regain your original status, but even more. Alita's expression changed several times, as he spoke as gently as possible. Perfect? Do you think I'm perfect the way I am now? Chad paused slightly, asking with a half smile and half tear. Yes, absolutely perfect. Come, my dearest son, let us conquer the world together, Alita said earnestly. As he spoke, he opened his arms to Chad, as if hoping to resolve all past grievances between him and Chad with this embrace. The hatred in Chad's eyes quickly dissipated, and he showed a clear hesitation, allowing Alita to pull him into his arms. Today's fourth update is here. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Nisha's Trump Card. Dad, if you're telling the truth, why is your voice trembling? Just as Alita Marquesino thought his fatherly facade was finally working, Chad Norma's low, sarcastic voice suddenly echoed in his ears. From a direction Alita couldn't see, the flames of hatred in Chad's eyes rekindled, even more intense than before. Hiss! With a deep roar, Chad opened his ugly, flower-like mouth and bit Alita's aorta. I'll kill you, so you don't have to suffer the same pain I suffered, Chad muttered softly, releasing Alita. He knew full well that the virus within him, after a second mutation, could no longer transform vampires into harvesters, but could only completely annihilate them. Nisha, Alita trembled as he walked towards Nisha, as if hoping she could save him. However, he had only taken 2 steps when he collapsed to the ground, dead. A pool of dark green blood flowed from Ali's wound, a truly disgusting sight. It seemed he had also modified his DNA. No, don't come over here. This was all the Duke's idea. I was just following orders. Meanwhile, Chad had already turned his attention to Kalo Kunin, forcing Kalo to retreat while frantically explaining himself. Unfortunately, Chad ignored Kalo's words and pounced, biting madly at the carotid artery in his neck. No, Kalo's piercing wail echoed throughout the lab. Only Chad and Nisha, brother and sister who shared the same suffering, remained in the lab. Then there were Wang Yunxiao and Selena, who had been observing the entire drama from within the other dimension. Brother, are you going to kill me? Nisha eyed Chad, who was approaching her, warily, ready to strike back, even at the risk of exposing her own hidden weapon. Of course she didn't want to die, at least not before killing that man. Why is he so fond of you? Chad asked instead of answering, revealing his true feelings, naked envy, jealousy, and hatred. Fat? If using me, even pushing me into a fire pit, can be considered fondness, then so be it. Nisha laughed self-deprecatingly, her smile tinged with sarcasm and sadness. Hey, Miss Nisha, if you keep saying this to me, we're really going to break up. How am I the fire pit? At this moment, Wang Yunxiao finally couldn't help but stand up. He knew better than to let Nisha continue, and Selena would inevitably torment him afterwards. It's you, Chad and Nisha exclaimed in unison. All they could say was, brother and sister, weren't they? However, Chad and Nisha's reactions were completely different. Chad was filled with hatred, resenting Wang Yunxiao and Selena for always spoiling his plans. Nisha, on the other hand, was more filled with surprise and confusion, with a subtle, yet subtle, complexity that even Wang Yunxiao didn't notice. Perhaps because of her directness, Selena was keenly aware of it. Chad Norma, huh? To thank you for giving us such a wonderful spectacle, I'll make your death a quick one. Wang Yunxiao then turned his gaze to Chad and said with a half-smile. I'm going to kill you. Chad, truly enraged, dove and lunged at Wang Xiaoyan. Wang Yunxiao was startled by this. Even he hadn't expected Chad to be so easily provoked. It seemed this guy had a rather unstable mood. He wondered if this was related to his secondary mutation. However, passively taking a beating was never Wang Yunxiao's style, especially since the opponent was far weaker than him. He certainly wouldn't let him run wild in front of him. With a flick of his body, he was already behind Chad, and the war god's blade slashed down at a lightning speed. Chad's reaction was also not slow. The moment Wang Yunxiao disappeared from the spot, his vigilance was heightened to the extreme. He felt the whistling sound behind him and dodged to the side without a second thought. Unfortunately, no matter how fast his reaction was, it was still no match for Wang Yunxiao's special ability. Puff! Wang Yunxiao flashed again and appeared behind Chad. The war god's blade continued its momentum, slashing across his back with a solid diagonal strike, almost severing him in two. However, what happened next surprised even Wang Yunxiao. Such a huge wound had completely healed in just a few breaths, almost catching up with the blood god. Damn it! I'll kill you. The excruciating pain drove Chad even more frantic, and he lunged at Wang Yunxiao once again, recklessly. Interesting, Wang Yunxiao smiled faintly, muttering softly before flashing back behind Chad. He was just a slightly more durable humanoid punching bag, not truly immortal. Any super healing or regeneration ability has a limit. Once that limit is exceeded, even the most powerful ones are useless. If all else fails, chop him into 17 or 18 pieces. Don't believe he can survive? After all, perverts like the blood god are rare exceptions. While Wang Yunxiao was being entangled by Chad, Nissa had no intention of staying here any longer. She quietly approached the small portal, which had been reopened at some point. Miss Nissa, where are you going? Selena's cold voice suddenly echoed in Nissa's ear. Nissa's expression changed drastically, then quickly regained her composure. Now that Selena had seen through her plan, she decided to go all out. A high-pitched scream erupted from her lips, and the invisible sound waves radiated outward in layers, like a massive shockwave. Selena had clearly not expected Nissa to have such a hidden weapon, and, caught off guard, she retreated rapidly. In fact, not only Selena, but even Chad, who was being attacked by Wang Yunxiao, was sent flying. Only Wang Yunxiao, having entered the alternate dimension in time, escaped the damage. But Nissa's hidden weapon wasn't limited to this. A pair of large bat wings suddenly unfolded from behind her, though significantly smaller than Selena's dragon-scale bat wings. With a flutter of her wings, she soared into the sky, like an arrow released from a bow, reaching the ceiling in an instant. Another high-pitched scream ripped through the alley roof, and Nissa darted out. Damn it, Selena, mortified, spread her dragon-scale bat wings and darted after Nissa. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 292 Lilith Dracula. Nissa soared, her high-pitched shriek blast shattering every obstacle in her path. In a flash, she reached the castle's ground level. Just as she was about to burst free, the seas wide open for fish to leap, the skies free for birds to soar, Selena's figure had already firmly blocked her path. Seeing this, Nissa's pupils narrowed slightly. She hadn't expected Selena to catch up so quickly. This was largely due to the time she had lost in overcoming the obstacles. But Nissa's second reaction was swift, and she let out another high-pitched shriek. Immediately, an invisible sonic arrow shot towards Selena. Selena dodged it with a slight turn, returning 2 sharp blows. Though in midair, she was even more agile than on the ground. With a slight flap of her wings, Nissa sped backward, her agility no less than Selena's. Furthermore, she had no intention of engaging Selena. As she retreated, she flipped over and fled in the other direction. Still wanting to leave, Selena, unwilling to let Nissa escape, transformed into a black, humanoid lightning bolt and instantly caught up to Nissa, slashing out with 2 more swift slashes. As if with a glance behind her, Nissa nimbly dodged both blows without even turning, her forward momentum undiminished. Even though Nissa was slightly slower than Selena, her agility allowed her to stubbornly reach the edge of the castle's outer wall. Selena was rather frustrated. Despite her speed, she was only slightly faster than Nissa, and with no air defenses to block her, it was a struggle to completely contain Nissa. Ultimately, it was because she lacked any supernatural abilities, especially control, otherwise she wouldn't be in such a vulnerable position. However, just as Nissa was about to break through the castle's outer wall, Wang Yunxiao suddenly appeared before her, followed by a powerful punch. Nissa's face turned cold, and her eyes seemed to blaze with fire. She was so fast, it was impossible to dodge the blow. She had no choice but to take it head-on. This was already a sign of mercy from Wang Yunxiao. He wanted to capture her alive. Otherwise, she would face not just a punch, but a violent slash. Bang! Nissa had only time to protect her chest with her hands before Wang Yunxiao struck her hard, sending her plummeting to the ground like a kite with its string cut. However, what followed was something Wang Yunxiao had not anticipated. Even so, Nissa managed to forcibly change direction, smashing through the castle's outer wall and successfully escaping. Wang Yunxiao, remember my name. I'm Lilith. Sooner or later, I'll return this blow to you. Lilith's angry, humiliated voice echoed above the castle. It's her. Hearing this, Wang Yunxiao was startled and gave up pursuing Lilith, watching her soar into the sky and disappear into the distant horizon. Who is she? Selena fluttered her wings to Wang Yunxiao's side and asked in confusion. The true princess of the vampire clan, daughter of the vampire king Vlad Tepes Dracula, Lilith Dracula. I knew she was hiding deep, but I didn't expect it to be this deep. Wang Yunxiao shook his head and smiled bitterly. No matter what, he couldn't imagine that Nissa could be Lilith. The one cursed to hunt Dracula for eternity until he's destroyed, Selena asked with a hint of surprise. Having helmed the North American Vampire Council for nearly 2 years, she'd heard a fair bit about the vampire clan's secrets. Yes, it's her. Only she could have escaped so easily despite our combined efforts. Wang Yunxiao spread his hands, offering a plausible excuse. Really? Why do I feel like you're attracted to her? Selena, undeterred, looked at Wang Yunxiao with a half-smile. Dear, I've already told you I'm not interested in her. Just now, I simply wanted to capture her alive, so you can control the European vampire ruling party in the future. Wang Yunxiao firmly denied the allegation, while also explaining her motives. Selina's sneer made her stance clear. Dear, what do you want to make you believe me? Wang Yunxiao was completely helpless, pleading pitifully. Let's go. Are you still going to stay and clean up the mess left by the Machicino family? Selina snorted, unmoved. Clearly, this matter wasn't going to go away so easily. Okay, although Wang Yunxiao was somewhat surprised by Selina's decision, he dared not say no. He quickly took her hand and teleported back to the New York manor. Why, back at the manor, Wang Yunxiao grabbed Selina, who was about to leave. It's all for you. If I take over the Machicino family, how will you explain this to your Princess Lilith in the future? Selina replied with a half-smile. Dear, stop it. Let's get down to business first, okay? Wang Yunxiao smiled bitterly and shook his head repeatedly. Okay. I just received an urgent report from number 3 today. The Vatican is planning a major operation against the ruling vampire party in Europe. Selina, knowing when to stop, said sternly. Although number 3 hasn't learned the specifics of the operation yet, I still think it's best for us not to get involved at this time. A chilling glint flashed in Selina's eyes. Are you saying that those fanatical lunatics already knew of Elita Machicino's plot and were just waiting for us to fight it out? Wang Yunxiao's tone turned serious. I don't know. But judging by their impeccable timing, it must be true. Selina shook her head slightly before offering her assessment. What a calculated plan. I never expected that, in the end, we'd be the ones to make things easier for them. Wang Yunxiao smiled wryly, but also felt a surge of dissatisfaction. It can't be helped. Both the vampire party and the church have deep-rooted influence in Europe, far beyond our reach. Selina offered advice. After this incident, I think we should refrain from intervening in Europe and let them fight it out. Selina then announced her decision. That's good. I was inconsiderate before. Wang Yunxiao paused for a moment before agreeing with Selina's decision. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 293, Europe Follow-Up. Before, I wasn't thoughtful enough. I was only focused on how to completely control the entire vampire clan, and I neglected the existence of the church. Wang Yunxiao reflected deeply on himself. Once we truly take control of the European vampire ruling party, we will inevitably clash with those fanatical lunatics. There will be no peace in the future. So, my dear, your decision is truly wise. Let those European guys take the lead. Despite this self-reflection, Wang Yunxiao also praised Selina's wisdom and bravery. HMPH, Selina, undeterred, snorted softly and turned to walk away. My dear, it's so late. Where are you going? Wang Yunxiao quickly grabbed Selina and asked in faint surprise. You need some time to reflect on yourself. Selina glanced at Wang Yunxiao and made a move to break free. No need. I clearly recognize my mistakes. Wang Yunxiao didn't let go. He even exerted a little force, pulling Selina into his arms. Then tell me, where did you go wrong? Selina asked with a half-smile. My mistake was, Wang Yunxiao lowered his voice, then suddenly kissed Selina's lips, cutting off his next words and any subsequent questions Selina might have asked. Ouch! Selina angrily smacked Wang Yunxiao on the back a few times, then wrapped her arms around his neck tightly, responding passionately. It was destined to be another sleepless night. The days that followed, Wang Yunxiao returned to the difficult life of a humanoid energy emitter. With 1995 drawing ever closer, he had to seize every moment. The women, Howard, and the others were busy with their own affairs, and everything seemed to have returned to calm. Only Selina remained closely monitoring the developments in Europe. Just 3 days after Wang Yunxiao and Selina had resolved the Machicino family's conspiracy, the Vatican suddenly launched a large-scale attack on the ruling vampire party in Europe. Although the European vampire party had been informed of the situation and made appropriate preparations, they underestimated the church's resolve. Furthermore, the previous incident with the harvesters had diverted their attention, forcing them to suffer heavy losses. By then, countless people must have cursed Elita Machicino countless times. If it weren't for Elita's unnecessary chaos, they wouldn't be in such a difficult position. However, the European vampire party's gains weren't entirely in vain. Over time, they gradually stabilized their decline. This, however, came at a heavy price, the most devastating losses in centuries. The church, knowing when to stop, halted its just war upon seeing the European vampire party's decline stabilize. In stark contrast to the dire plight of the European vampire ruling party, this glorious and great victory deserved to be commemorated, etched in history, and passed down to future generations. I didn't expect the Vatican to pull such a stunt this time, Wang Yunxiao said sarcastically in the Wakanda Palace, reviewing the intelligence Selena handed over. Yes, after this, the European vampire ruling party won't be able to recover for at least 10 years. Selena, however, was not as relaxed as Wang Yunxiao, sighing with worry. Are you worried that the Vatican will seize this opportunity to turn its attention to you? After a moment's thought, Wang Yunxiao guessed what Selena was worried about. True, Selena nodded lightly, admitting frankly. However, if they truly believe I'm one of those European idiots, I'll show them what pain means. Immediately, Selena's expression grew colder, and it felt as if the temperature around her had dropped several degrees. My dear, you don't have to worry too much. Believe me, the Vatican won't dare to provoke you again for a long time. Wang Yunxiao took Selena's hand and soothed her softly. Why? Selena looked at Wang Yunxiao, slightly puzzled. You underestimate the strength of the ruling vampire party in Europe. Think about it, if they were truly so useless, wouldn't they have been driven out of Europe by the Vatican long ago? Even in the Middle Ages, at the height of the Vatican's power, it couldn't truly do anything about the vampires. Wang Yunxiao smiled softly and explained slowly. You're right, I'm a little too paranoid. After a long pause, Selena finally chuckled. You're in the middle of this, too, and worrying too much can lead to confusion. Wang Yunxiao's tone grew gentler. But, my dear, you've been under a lot of pressure lately. Why don't you let everything go and get some rest? Wang Yunxiao then offered soft advice. No, I'll get it right. The Vampire Council can't do without me right now. Selena shook her head, rejecting Wang Yunxiao's offer without a second thought. Then, seeing Wang Yunxiao trying to persuade her further, Selena offered him a kiss. This is a reward for you, but don't be too greedy. Just as Wang Yunxiao was engrossed in her feelings and about to take another step forward, Selena pushed him away, leaving him no chance to take advantage and simply walked away. Watching her graceful figure swiftly away, Wang Yunxiao felt helpless, but there was nothing he could do. However, he had already made up his mind to retaliate tonight. Perhaps it's time to find Selena some help. Then, Wang Yunxiao frowned again. He felt that it was indeed too much for Selena alone to manage the entire North American Vampire Council, especially with the Vatican and the European Vampire ruling party secretly watching. Ada Wong runs the Umbrella Corporation, assisted by Rain. Selene presides over the Hellfire Club, with Elizabeth providing considerable support. Even Emma's ideal mutant Eden is aided by Clarice. As for Wakanda, while there's only Best, Wang Yunxiao is always there when things aren't going on. Not to mention Howard and the others are also there. Selena alone single-handedly supports the entire North American Vampire Council. Could it be that I really have a crush on that woman, but for some reason, the image of Princess Nyssa would appear in Wang Yunxiao's mind, then change to a different, more blurred image in the blink of an eye. And this is the shadow of Lilith Dracula. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 294. The show begins. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 1995. Since the beginning of the year, Wang Yunxiao had Red Queen monitoring all SHIELD activities. Wang Yunxiao was hesitant about contacting Carol Danvers, the Captain Marvel, who was about to return to Earth. While Carol was currently a mere member of the Kree Empire's Interstellar Corps, far from unleashing her full power, this trip to Earth was also the beginning of her true transformation into Captain Marvel, a powerful individual cosmic being far beyond Wang Yunxiao's current capabilities. Once Carol had fully completed her transformation into Captain Marvel, even the Sorcerer Supreme, the Ancient One, would be no match for her. Although it was only a brief encounter, Wang Yunxiao doubted Carol would have a favorable impression of him. Even his inaction in allowing someone to die was enough to convince her otherwise. This hesitation persisted until Carol finally returned to Earth, and Wang Yunxiao couldn't make up his mind. Boss, one day, in the Wakanda Palace, Wang Yunxiao was rushing to recharge the cosmic cube with dimensional energy when the clear, childlike voice of the White Queen suddenly rang out. Any news? Wang Yunxiao paused, took a deep breath, and asked gravely. Yes, boss. Just heard from the Red Queen. The Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency has just recovered the body of a Skrull. The White Queen hurriedly recounted the intel she had received from Red Queen. Is it finally about to begin? Wang Yunxiao murmured softly, barely paying attention to what White Queen said next, for he knew full well that the plot of Captain Marvel was finally about to begin. White Queen, notify Clarice and Lawson to come over. Wang Yunxiao gave the order, gazing at the cosmic cube, which was emitting a faint blue light. After over 2 years of Wang Yunxiao's tireless efforts, the Tesseract was finally restored to its original state. While it wasn't clear if it could be hidden from those with extensive knowledge of the Infinity Stones, it was certainly enough to conceal the vast majority who had never encountered them. Also, help me find the exact location of a place called Pancho's Bar, Wang Yunxiao added after a moment's thought. Ultimately, even if he couldn't participate in the drama that was about to unfold, he couldn't help but want to witness it up close. Yes, boss, the White Queen replied crisply, and set off. Dear, you looking for me? Clarice arrived moments later, her expression slightly pouty, clearly a misunderstanding. For the time being, Wang Yunxiao had resided in Wakanda, living like a king, even engaging in absurd activities during the day. Wang Yunxiao felt his heart flutter at the sight of Clarice's charming expression. If it weren't for the important business that followed, he would have pounced on her. I'll have to trouble you to take Lawson to her spaceship later. Calming his restless spirit, Wang Yunxiao quickly got down to business. Okay, Clarice blushed, realizing she'd misunderstood, but she still gave Wang Yunxiao a stern glare. Wang Yunxiao looked so innocent. Just as he was about to teach this little girl a lesson, crisp footsteps echoed outside the door. Boss, Lawson hurried in, looking at Wang Yunxiao with a puzzled look. Lawson, it's time to return the Tesseract. Wang Yunxiao placed the Tesseract back in the small black box and handed it to Lawson. You mean? Carol's back. Lawson was startled for a moment, instinctively taking the black box, then snapping back to his senses and asking excitedly. For all these years, Carol's return to the Kree Empire by Yanrog had been a constant source of worry for Lawson. Although Wang Yunxiao had assured her that Carol was safe, she still couldn't truly rest assured, and her guilt remained undimmed. If it hadn't been for her, how could Carol have been dragged into this mess? Yes. But this might not be the right time. If you want to see her, wait until another time. Wang Yunxiao understood Lawson's intentions, but still refused. After all, even he hadn't made up his mind about contacting Carol. More importantly, Wang Yunxiao didn't want the outside world to know that he had a top alien scientist under his command. That would inevitably bring him countless troubles. After all, there wouldn't be a single force, not even a country, in this world that wouldn't be interested in alien technology. Boss, I just want to check on her from a distance to make sure she's safe, Lawson requested after a moment's hesitation. Well, okay, I'll take you to see her then. After some thought, Wang Yunxiao agreed. As long as he didn't meet Carol face to face, there wouldn't be any consequences. Thank you, boss. Lawson, who had already given up hope, couldn't help but express his gratitude excitedly. Well, for now, please take the trouble to return the cosmic cube. Wang Yunxiao waved his hand nonchalantly, then said seriously. No problem, Lawson wouldn't refuse. As soon as Lawson finished speaking, Clarice, who had remained silent until then, waved her hand and opened a dazzling, colorful space portal. This was not the first time Lawson had used the space portal to reach her spaceship. Without hesitation, he strode through it, the small black box in his hand. A few minutes later, Lawson returned, and the black box was no longer in her hands. Lawson, you go ahead and do your work. When the time is right, I'll take you to see Carol, Wang Yunxiao said gently with a smile. Okay, Lawson nodded slightly, then left the Wakanda palace with brisk steps. Since everything's alright, I'll go back too. Closing the dimensional portal, Clarice made a move to leave, but the next moment, she let out a startled cry and fell into someone's arms. Where are you going? Wang Yunxiao gently bit Clarice's earlobe. No. It's still daytime. Clarice's body went limp, powerless to resist. Clarice's half-hearted gesture had no effect on Wang Yunxiao, it actually intensified his passion. What's wrong with daytime? It's not like we haven't had it before. With a wicked chuckle, Wang Yunxiao kissed Clarice's lips. A sudden, volcanic explosion erupted in the chambers. Thanks to the drunken black-hearted rat for the guaranteed monthly pass. 4 updates are here today. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 295 Fury and Carol, Part 1. Pancho's Bar, an old roadhouse, was well equipped with record players, video game consoles, billiards, and more, all offering travelers a place to relax and unwind after a long journey. An interesting scene was unfolding within the bar. Ding-ling-ling, with a crisp ring of the doorbell, a tall, muscular black man strode into the bar, surveying the patrons gathered in groups of 3 or 4. "Welcome. What would you like to drink?" the bar owner asked, a warm smile on his face. Nicholas Joseph Fury, special agent for the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. Unexpectedly, the man sternly displayed his credentials. While such a long name might be a bit of a mouthful, it still sounded quite impressive. Suddenly, not only the bar owner, but also the patrons in groups of 3 or 4, all turned their gazes toward Fury. "Mr. Agent, what can I do for you?" the bar owner asked nervously. Ordinary people like them naturally didn't want to mess with a government agency, especially one so mysterious and special that they had never heard of. "I'm on duty, and I hope you all will cooperate," Fury said gravely. Though Fury didn't say it explicitly, the bar's patrons understood his meaning, and without hesitation, they paid their bills and left. In a flash, Fury and the bar owner were the only ones left in the bar. "Do I need to leave too?" the bar owner said, a look of dejection on his face, but he didn't dare betray any displeasure. "No, that's not necessary. But a woman will be coming over soon, and I hope you'll behave properly." Fury glanced at the bar owner, thought for a moment, and while he didn't chase him away, he did offer a few words of advice. Yes, the bar owner nodded repeatedly. Hearing it was a woman, the bar owner felt a little relieved, at least he didn't have to worry too much about a gunfight in his bar. Fury then ignored the bar owner and began to survey the bar, preparing his own escape route. The woman who arrived later wasn't someone to be trifled with. Soon, the roar of a motorcycle engine could be heard outside the bar, approaching from afar. Ding-ling-ling, the doorbell rang, and a blonde in a motorcycle jacket strode into the bar. For some reason, she paused at the door, a look of hesitation and reminiscence on her face. It wasn't until her eyes fell on a black and white photo of an Air Force AF-76-199 fighter jet that she unconsciously walked over, the expression intensifying. The bar owner, who had been carefully observing the girl, finally relaxed a bit, realizing she didn't look menacing. "What would you like to drink?" he asked hurriedly, noticing the girl's gaze. However, with an agent from some agency nearby, his usual warmth had faded. "Where was this photo taken?" the girl asked bluntly. At the airport," the bar owner wasn't entirely sure. "Where is Project Pegasus?" the girl's next question stumped the bar owner. He had never heard of Project Pegasus. "That's right, the girl is Carol Danvers, who unexpectedly returned to Earth and is now a member of the Kree Empire's Interstellar Combat Force." She'd previously learned from a Skrull that their arrival on Earth was part of the so-called Project Pegasus, and her only clue was Pancho's Bar, which had led her all the way here. "This is confidential. I'm marking your files as confidential, too." Just then, Fury emerged from the bar's kitchen and shouted. Seeing Fury finally appear, the bar owner breathed a sigh of relief and hurried off. Project Pegasus sounded like a highly confidential secret, and now that Fury had mentioned it, he didn't want to linger in this troubled place any longer, fearing he'd be dragged into it and potentially lose his life. While the bar was important, it wasn't as important as his own life. "But I can see you've changed a bit. The rock and roll look really suits you." Fury examined Carol carefully, but didn't rush to the point. He knew full well that the woman before him was not only incredibly powerful, capable of firing incredibly powerful lasers with her bare hands, but most importantly, she was very likely an alien. "Did you have a hard day, Agent Fury?" Carol asked with a half-smile. "Not hard, just a bit exciting. Look, I experienced an alien invasion, had a car chase, and even had the pleasure of observing an alien autopsy. It was a truly remarkable day," Fury said jokingly. This guy, he's still the same, inside the bar, in a different dimension hidden from Fury and Carol. Wang Yunxiao sighed and shook his head repeatedly, his eyes gleaming with nostalgia. Memories of his past battles alongside Fury flashed before his eyes. Well, this guy really has a big heart. Even in such a situation, he still has the time to joke. "Did you see the Skrulls?" Carol asked sternly upon hearing Fury's words. "I've never believed in aliens, but there they are." Fury shrugged and walked out from behind the bar, keeping a distance from Carol to avoid any misunderstanding. "Although I shouldn't doubt you, I still have to ask, Carol said after a slight hesitation. Do you think I'm one of those green-skinned lizards? Before Carol could ask, Fury spoke for her. It's always better to be cautious. Carol spread her hands. I guarantee you're looking at a 100% human with red blood. Fury dropped his joke and said seriously. I need more evidence. Carol remained unmoved. Do you want a cell test? Or a urine test? Fury asked helplessly. No. Skrulls can replicate genes, so these won't do anything. Carol sternly rejected Fury's suggestion. Then you want my dial-up password? Or my bank card number? Fury complained, genuinely frustrated. When a Skrull transforms into a new creature, they only have memories of the most recent period. Carol didn't say it explicitly, but the meaning was clear. Oh, I see. You mean to ask about my personal privacy? Fury naturally understood and reverted to his old ways, cracking a joke. Unfortunately, Carol didn't mean to be joking at all. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 296 Fury and Carol, Part 2. Inside Pancho's bar, Nicholas Joseph Fury and Carol Danvers found a table across from each other. This allowed them to observe each other's expressions during their subsequent conversation, helping them determine if the other was lying. Where were you born? Alabama, though technically I don't remember it. What's your pet's name? Mr. Sneeze, interesting name, isn't it? What was your first job? Soldier. I joined the army right out of high school and retired as a colonel. Then what? Secret agent. Where? During the Cold War, we went everywhere. Belfast, Bucharest, Belgrade, Budapest, a lot. And now, for 6 years, I've been working as a civilian, researching where Earth's future enemies might come from. I never imagined they'd come from the sky. Then, it was time for Carol to ask questions and Fury to answer them. From beginning to end, Carol's expression remained serious, carefully observing Fury's reaction. Fury, on the other hand, while answering seriously, would occasionally crack a joke, appearing more relaxed. Tell me a Skrull's quirk that they could never invent. Finally, Carol asked a seemingly crucial question. I won't eat bread unless it's square. Is that really necessary? Fury paused for a moment, then replied truthfully. But then he realized he'd been tricked. No, it's not necessary. I just wanted to ask. Carol couldn't help but smile. In fact, even after Fury's relaxed response, she had already made up her mind. Okay, your turn. Prove you're not a Skrull. Fury shrugged slightly, his turn finally coming. Honestly, since joining SHIELD, he'd never been interrogated like this, like he was being interrogated like a criminal, and it was a bit unpleasant. Unexpectedly, Carol defied expectations. He extended his right hand, and a laser shot forth, shattering the opposite console. Does that prove you're not a Skrull? Fury asked hesitantly, glancing at the shattered console before returning his gaze to Carol. He swallowed furtively. That's a photon energy cannon. Skrulls don't use it. Carol shrugged, offering a compelling argument. Alright, Fury was completely lost for words. So, you're a military colonel turned secret agent. You must have quite a bit of power, right? Carol asked, his eyes rolling. Why are you asking that? Fury immediately grew wary, vaguely guessing Carol's thoughts. Where is Project Pegasus? Carol asked, as expected. How did you know about Project Pegasus? And why are you so focused on it? Fury asked instead, genuinely curious. Why had Carol been so obsessed with Project Pegasus? How had she learned about this secret military project, which had been abandoned 6 years earlier? Because the Skrulls are looking for Dr. Lawson, and that's their primary purpose for coming to Earth? After a moment's thought, Carol decided to tell the truth. She felt that even if Fury knew the truth, he wouldn't be able to pull any tricks. Besides, Carol had already contacted Jan Rog, and the Star Troopers were racing toward Earth. She had every confidence to ignore anyone and any force. Well, now Carol looked completely brainwashed by the supreme intelligence of the Kree Empire. She had been sold out by Jan Rog, and was even counting his money. The supreme intelligence, the Kree Empire's scientific council, had realized that the Skrulls had once created an incredibly powerful weapon called the Cosmic Cube, and so designed an organic supercomputer in the vain hope of helping them create it. Why are the Skrulls looking for Dr. Lawson? Fury knew Lawson was Project Pegasus's chief scientist, thanks to his 6 years of civilian service. They believe Dr. Lawson developed the Lightspeed engine within Project Pegasus. Carol's expression grew serious again at the mention of the Lightspeed engine. Lightspeed engine, Fury knew, of course, that the Lightspeed engine was Project Pegasus's goal, but was it truly that powerful? Why would the Skrulls attach such importance to it? Yes. I must stop them from obtaining the Lightspeed engine, or the entire universe will be plunged into endless war. Even your Earth will be vulnerable to invasion. Carol's expression was unusually serious at that moment. Okay. I'll take you there. Seeing that Carol wasn't joking, Fury couldn't help but take the matter seriously. He also wanted to seize the opportunity to identify the Skrulls, so he resolutely agreed. Do you feel like you're being watched? Just as the two were about to leave the bar, Carol suddenly frowned and asked, Miss Carol, I promise I came here alone this time. Fury was stunned by the question, then solemnly assured him. That's not what I meant. Never mind. Carol's frown deepened, knowing Fury had misunderstood her, but unsure how to explain. In the end, she suppressed a feeling of being watched and left the bar with Fury. What an amazing sense, Wang Yunxiao muttered to himself as he watched Carol and Fury drive away from Pancho's bar, a hint of caution etched in his expression. He hadn't expected Carol's perception to be so sharp, to even vaguely sense the existence of an alternate dimension. While Carol's perception was more like a sixth sense and couldn't truly confirm the existence of an alternate dimension, it was still quite remarkable. Wang Yunxiao was confident that since becoming the host of the Space Stone, no one on Earth, save the Ancient One, the supreme sorcerer who mastered space magic, could penetrate his alternate dimension. But today, Carol had shattered his confidence. You see, Carol hasn't even transformed into Captain Marvel yet, but she's already achieved this level of skill. What about when she's fully transformed? Then, Wang Yunxiao thought, Carol's powers also come from the Space Stone. Perhaps this is why she's so sensitive to her own alternate dimension? If so, Wang Yunxiao wouldn't be happy, but would rather take it seriously. Yuan aside, whether to continue following Carol is something he needs to think about. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 297 The Truth. After much hesitation, Wang Yunxiao decided not to follow Nicholas Joseph Fury and Carol Danvers. Since he had already met them, he knew exactly where they were going next, so there was no need to follow them. However, Wang Yunxiao would keep his promise and bring Lawson to meet Carol. Of course, it wouldn't be a face-to-face reunion, the venue would be Maria Rambeau's home. At that moment, Wang Yunxiao finally made up his mind not to confront Carol directly this time. Although Carol, transformed into Captain Marvel, was truly powerful, it wouldn't bring him any substantial benefits, but would only cause him unnecessary trouble. Putting aside the previous grudge between Wang Yunxiao and Carol, if Carol boarded Lawson's spaceship, it would be easy to discover that Lawson was not dead. If Wang Yunxiao ran into them again at this point, wouldn't that just bring him trouble? Meanwhile, Carol, led by Fury, had arrived at a secret U.S. Air Force base, the very same base where the Pegasus project had been implemented 6 years prior. Fury, leveraging his shield credentials, easily brought Carol into the Air Force base and even met the base's director. However, as soon as Carol mentioned Project Pegasus and Dr. Lawson, the director immediately turned hostile and imprisoned them. Clearly, even after all these years, the failure of Project Pegasus still lingered in the base's consciousness. However, this proved no problem for the two. Without even a single shot from Carol's photon cannon, Fury easily cracked a fingerprint lock. The two made their way to the Air Force base's database and easily found information on Project Pegasus. Unfortunately, the information had been heavily tampered with. Fortunately, they managed to uncover some useful information, such as Dr. Lawson's scribbled notes, which Carol recognized as the alien Kree script. More crucially, Carol spotted herself in a photo within the file. Looking at the photo in her hand, Carol's mind revived fragments of memories, both familiar and unfamiliar, herself, the space base, Project Pegasus, and Dr. Lawson. Clearly, these memories had been erased by the supreme wisdom of the Kree Empire. During this process, a few minor setbacks occurred, all caused by Fury. Driven by his duty, Fury quietly contacted SHIELD, just as his immediate superior arrived at the airbase with a team of SHIELD agents. Fury reunited with his superior, but unlike his expectations, he immediately began making arrangements to capture Carol. Unable to stop him, Fury keenly realized that his superior was likely a Skrull in disguise. Naturally, he resisted, only to be brutally beaten by his superior. Had Carol not intervened, his fate would have been even more tragic. Fury and Carol then played hide-and-seek with the SHIELD agents at the air base. With the help of new agent Kelson, they hijacked a fighter jet and soared into the sky, successfully escaping the base. Remarkably, a stowaway named Grunt, seemingly an ordinary cat, was actually the alien elemental devourer. This foreshadowed Fury's future as the infamous One-Eyed Man. Later, the two tracked down Maria Rambeau through information from Project Pegasus. Based on the information, Maria seemed to know Dr. Lawson and, most likely, Carol. By this point, Carol was beginning to question her own past. The reunion not only surprised Maria, but also her adorable daughter, Monica Rambeau, was thrilled. However, Carol, still struggling with her memory, was somewhat overwhelmed by the mother-daughter warmth. Perhaps driven by an instinctive sense of familiarity, Carol didn't hold back much during the subsequent conversation, briefly recounting some of her alien experiences. This naturally caused Maria and her daughter to exclaim in surprise, but after witnessing her photon energy, they were convinced of her bizarre experiences. Maria's recounting not only revealed details about Project Pegasus but also some of her past experiences. However, she still couldn't believe what Maria described, as she had no memory of it. It must be said that the Kree Empire's Supreme Intelligence's brainwashing was highly successful. Regardless, Maria and her daughter felt a strange warmth in Carol, and she settled into her home. However, this good fortune didn't last long. To Fury's and Carol's surprise, the Skrulls came directly to their doorstep, and their leader, using Monica as a threat, deterred both of them from any rash action. Fortunately, the Skrull leader had no intentions of going too far. He simply wanted to have a peaceful conversation with Carol. He also produced a black box left behind by the final superluminal fighter from Project Pegasus 6 years earlier to bolster his persuasiveness. With Monica already in his possession, the two had no choice. Furthermore, they were curious about what the black box contained, so they readily agreed to the Skrull leader's request. The black box contained only audio recordings, not visual information. However, both Carol and Fury could clearly hear the conversation between Carol and Dr. Lawson. Listening to the audio recordings, Carol began to vaguely recall the events of that time. At that moment, Carol's heart was truly in turmoil. She rushed out of the cabin anxiously, needing some solitude to calm herself. Danvers, and just behind her, in a different dimension, Lawson subconsciously reached out, as if trying to grab Carol, his expression filled with pain and self-blame. She wondered if it weren't for her, Carol wouldn't have been caught up in this turmoil, wouldn't be suffering as she did now. In reality, Wang Yunxiao and Lawson had already arrived, silently, long before the Skrulls arrived. Wang Yunxiao could understand Lawson's thoughts, but he knew only too well, without them, how could Carol truly transform into Captain Marvel? That's a single cosmic powerhouse, an opportunity so immense that so many envy it. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, Changing Position. Soon, Nicholas Joseph Fury and Maria Rambeau followed, and naturally, Talus, the Skrull leader, would not be left behind. He deceived me. Everything I knew was a lie, Carol Danvers exclaimed excitedly, the fragments of memory streaming through her mind making it impossible for her to disbelieve. As for the he she was referring to, it was naturally Yon-Rogg, the commander of the Kree Empire's interstellar fleet and the man she once trusted most. Now you understand, Talus quickly said, seizing the opportunity. What? What should I understand? Carol interrupted before Talus could finish. She was in a state of emotional turmoil, so how could she listen to anything else? Especially not from the Skrulls, whom she had always hated. Yon-Rogg killed Marvel, or Dr. Lawson as you call her. Because Marvel realized that this was an unjust war, Talus said in a deep voice. No. Your people are terrorists, committing countless crimes of indiscriminate slaughter. I've witnessed the devastation on Torfa firsthand. Talus was interrupted again by Carol. How could such a fixed mindset be changed so easily? Ronan the Accuser's fleet was the true culprit behind the destruction of Torfa. We Skrulls are merely seeking refuge there, Talus cried out excitedly. This startled Carol, and surprisingly, she regained some composure. We are refugees. We simply wanted to resist the Kree's tyranny, Yet they destroyed our homeworld. The few who remain will soon be slaughtered. Unless you can help us fulfill Mavel's last wish. That energy core will activate a light-speed-powered ship and take us to safety, somewhere the Kree won't find us." Talus calmed down a bit and pleaded sincerely. "Lawson has always taught us that the Pegasus Project is not an accomplice to war, but an end to it." Maria couldn't help but speak before Carol could say anything else. She genuinely felt some sympathy for the Skrulls' plight, and she saw sincerity in Talus's face. Well, that green face of his wasn't exactly flattering. "Yes, Mavel hopes you can help us find the power core," Talus said, looking expectantly at Carol. "I destroyed the power core." Carol's tone softened, shaking her head. "No. You only destroyed the engine. Mavel has hidden a power core somewhere remote. If you can help us decipher the core's coordinates, we can find it," Talus said hastily, the anticipation in his eyes growing even stronger. "You'll use it to destroy us?" Carol still refused. Clearly, she couldn't immediately change her long-held stance on the Kree Empire. "We just want a home. Carol, you and we lost everything because of the Kree. Don't you understand? You're not a Kree." Talus tried another tactic, attempting to convince Carol. "You don't understand me at all. You don't know who I am." "Even I don't know who I am." Carol's emotions boiled over again. Talus was speechless for a moment, not daring to provoke her any further. "You're Carol Danvers. You're the one whose black box force recorded you, risking your life to do the right thing." Maria then spoke again, not only out of sympathy for the Skrulls' plight, but more importantly, she didn't want Carol to continue this confusion and pain. "You're still my best friend. You've supported me not only as a mother but also as a pilot. You're smart, you love to laugh, and you can be incredibly annoying. You're the most powerful person I know, even before you had your photon cannon." Maria's words were heartfelt. And Carol's excitement gradually subsided. Although she hadn't yet remembered everything about their time together, Carol instinctively trusted her. The two women then embraced each other tightly. "Oh, I hope Carol can come to her senses and help those poor Skrull refugees." In the alternate dimension, Lawson sighed sadly, thinking of everything the Kree had done to the Skrulls, even the Skrull women and children she had taken in on the spaceship. She felt a surge of guilt. Wang Yunxiao, however, dismissed Lawson's lament and guilt. In his view, the most fundamental rule of this world is the survival of the fittest. The weak are dominated by the strong, it's only natural. This has always been his guiding principle. More importantly, Wang Yunxiao believed that the Skrull Empire's current fate was more or less their own fault. The relationship between them and the Kree Empire was the perfect example of raising a tiger to harm oneself. If it weren't for their initial kindness, how could the Kree Empire have grown so rapidly and turned its guns on them? "Boss, let's go back. I believe Carol will make the right choice." After sighing, Lawson decided not to linger any longer. Now that Carol's memories were gradually returning, she believed she would no longer be an accomplice of the Kree Empire. "No rush. Jan Rog is leading a fleet of spaceships. To be on the safe side, we should stay and observe for a while." Wang Yunxiao refused. "All right," Lawson thought for a moment and agreed. She knew the formidable power of Jan Rog and his fleet of spaceships, and she feared an unexpected encounter with him. Then, as Wang Yunxiao and Lawson watched silently, Talus finally persuaded Carol and obtained the coordinates of Lawson's spaceship. However, Lawson's spaceship was in outer space, and Talus, Carol, and the others lacked suitable transportation. Finally, it was Taku, the Skrull's chief scientist, who stepped in. Although he seemed unreliable, unable to solve even simple math problems, he had, in just a few hours, successfully transformed a jet fighter Carol and Fury had flown from the airbase into a spaceship. At dawn, Carol and Maria piloted their modified spaceship and soared into the endless expanse of outer space. Fury and Talus were naturally among them, but Taku stayed behind, hoping to cause some trouble for Jan Rog. Thank you for your guaranteed monthly pass to Moment of Love. 4 more chapters have been released today. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 299 Farewell Young Roger. Shortly after Carol Danvers, Nicholas Joseph Fury, Maria Rambeau, and the Skrull leader, Talus, left, Jan Rog arrived. In Maria's cabin, Jan Rog encountered Taku, the Skrull chief scientist, who had been left alone. However, Taku now appeared as Carol. "Why are you here just now?" Taku asked before Jan Rog could say anything. He was afraid Jan Rog would ask something he didn't know, as he only had Carol's short-term memories. I'm fine, thank you for your concern. Yanrog remained unmoved, still scrutinizing Taku. Pri 46b, Taku calmly recited Carol's code, which he had specifically asked her about earlier. No need for the code. We all know it's no longer useful. Unexpectedly, Yanrog was even more cautious than Taku had expected, interrupting him with a blank expression. Okay, ask anything you want. Though Taku's inner vigilance was high, he maintained a calm demeanor. Whose image do you see when you meet the Supreme Wisdom? Yanrog slowly approached Taku, creating a more oppressive impression, his eyes constantly observing every expression on his face. Mavel, Taku replied naturally, secretly relieved. Carol had already explained this to him. Oh no. Danvers usually calls me Dr. Lawson. In the alternate dimension, just as Taku's response had fallen, Lawson exclaimed in surprise. What's your first memory of Hara? Yanrog continued calmly. Could it be that he truly hadn't noticed anything unusual? Blood transfusion. My blood is now blue. Taku's tone was lighthearted. Puff. Before Taku could finish his words, Yanrog whipped out his gun and fired. Unprepared, Taku fell to the ground, wounded and returning to his original form. Foss has forgotten Mavel's name. You should call her Dr. Lawson, Yanrog said coldly, his gun pointed at Taku's head. Boss, please save him, Lawson anxiously pleaded with Wang Yunxiao in the other dimension. Little did she know, Wang Yunxiao already knew what was happening. If it weren't for saving Taku, the Skrull's chief scientist, why would she have stayed? The Skrull Empire, though now in decline, was once one of the three great empires in the universe, and its technological prowess was undeniable. And for Taku to become the Skrull's chief scientist, he must have considerable talent. Just seeing how he could transform an ordinary jet fighter into a spaceship in just a few hours was proof of that. What did you do to her? Yanrog asked coldly. Honestly, although he had been exploiting Carol, he still cared about her to some degree. You're too late. She already knows everything, haha. Even as death approached, Taku actually laughed, knowing full well that his people would be redeemed. Damn it, Yanrog cursed angrily. At that moment, all concerns were forgotten. He only cared about finding Carol and letting the Supreme Intelligence re-brainwash her. Puff, Yanrog, unwilling to engage Taku any further, fired another shot. Unexpectedly, the shot missed. There was no trace of Taku. Who is it? Yanrog glanced around warily, a faint dark green light flickering from his right fist. Kree, it's been a long time since we last met. But you're so forgetful. Don't you remember what I once told you? Earth isn't a place for you Kree to run wild. Just then, a hateful voice, one Yanrog would never forget, echoed from behind him. It's you. Yanrog whirled around. Seeing it was indeed Wang Yunxiao, his pupils narrowed sharply, his face tinging with color. It seems the lesson I taught you last time wasn't enough, Wang Yunxiao muttered to himself, completely ignoring Yanrog. Wait. I came to Earth with no ill intentions. I simply wanted to rescue my team from those damned Skrulls. Upon hearing this, Yanrog's expression paled, and he hurriedly explained. Your team? Wang Yunxiao asked with a half-smile. Yes, although Fuss was once an Earthling, she's now a member of the StarCraft team. 4 years, she's been with us, maintaining peace throughout the universe. Yanrog knew some things couldn't be hidden from Wang Yunxiao, so he acted like Carol was his good teammate, even going so far as to flatter them. Wang Yunxiao was speechless. He hadn't expected Yanrog to be so shameless. Did he really think he didn't know the true nature of the Kree Empire? This time, the reason Forth returned to Earth, and the reason our Star Troopers arrived, was to stop those damned Skrulls invasion plot. Seeing Wang Yunxiao's silence, Yanrog assumed Wang Yunxiao believed him and quickly continued his deception, hoping to deceive Wang Yunxiao. Enough. Don't worry about Earth's affairs, you Kree people. We'll handle it ourselves. Wang Yunxiao, unable to bear it any longer, interrupted Yanrog's chatter with a cold voice. Wang Yunxiao simply couldn't bear to expose Yanrog's lies, nor did he want to kill him. He knew that Commander Ronin's fleet would arrive soon. Most importantly, without Yanrog adding fuel to the fire, who knew if Carol could complete her transformation into Captain Marvel? While Wang Yunxiao wasn't afraid of the worst-case scenario, he alone wouldn't be able to stop Ronin's fleet. After all, he wasn't as perverted as Carol, who had transformed into Captain Marvel. Yanrog fell silent. Though he felt extremely frustrated, he dared not show it on his face. Truly, the impression Wang Yunxiao had left on him last time was too deep. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Take your people and get off the planet right now. Otherwise, Wang Yunxiao didn't finish his words, but his meaning was clear. Yes, we'll leave now, Yang Rog promised, swallowing his frustration. But in his heart, he had already made up his mind. When Commander Ronin arrived with his fleet, he would avenge all the humiliation he had endured. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 300 Captain Marvel, Part 1. After watching Yang Rog flee the cabin in disarray, Wang Yunxiao waved her hand and withdrew the alternate dimension, revealing Lawson and Taku. Boss, why don't you just kill him? Lawson asked softly, her eyes undisguised. She knew all too well how many heinous crimes the Starfleet had committed under Yang Rog's leadership over the years. Commander Ronin's fleet is en route to Earth and will arrive soon, Wang Yunxiao replied with a shake of her head. What? Lawson's face lit up with shock. She was well aware of Ronin's notoriety and understood why Wang Yunxiao didn't just kill Yang Rog. She was filled with worry. She didn't believe Earth, with its current technological capabilities, could withstand Ronin's invasion. Even with Wakanda, there was still no hope. Don't worry, if the sky falls, there's always someone higher to hold it up. Wang Yunxiao saw Lawson's concern, but acted unconcerned. It was Wang Yunxiao's reaction that eased Lawson's worries. She'd assumed Wang Yunxiao was referring to the Ancient One, the Sorcerer Supreme, but she hadn't realized the tall one he was referring to was Carol Danvers, who was about to complete her transformation into Captain Marvel. Boss, save him. Lawson finally turned her attention back to the already dying Taku. If they didn't find a way to treat his injuries, he wouldn't last much longer. I've just spoken to him, Lawson added after a slight hesitation. She knew that due to Taku's condition, there was no way to treat him on Earth. The only one who could save him was Wang Yunxiao, and the solution, naturally, was to transform him into a zombie. Oh? Let's go back to Wakanda first. Wang Yunxiao raised a brow. She hadn't expected Lawson to surprise her with such a big surprise, saving her a lot of trouble. The next moment, Wang Yunxiao brought Lawson and Taku directly back to the Wakanda palace. Under Lawson's expectant gaze, he instantly transformed Taku into a zombie. With that, Wang Yunxiao had added another top-tier scientist to his arsenal, an alien scientist possessing the technological civilization of the Skrull Empire. After a few warm words with Taku, Wang Yunxiao summoned the woman and Howard and the others to introduce Taku. While Taku's situation was different from Lawson's, and he certainly wouldn't be able to completely forget the Skrull Empire anytime soon, Wang Yunxiao didn't care, believing that time could change everything. Wang Yunxiao had another important reason for summoning everyone, to let them witness an interstellar war with their own eyes. Even if Wang Yunxiao had described it to them, seeing it with their own eyes would be more tangible. He believed that Ronin's fleet and Carol, the Captain Marvel of the single universe, would leave a deep impression on them. White Queen, Wang Yunxiao greeted softly. Boss, what are your orders? White Queen responded immediately. Mobilize satellites and closely monitor everything in outer space, especially the approaching Kree Empire fleet, Wang Yunxiao ordered immediately. As the most technologically advanced nation on Earth, Wakanda naturally couldn't be without satellites. Not only did Wakanda possess satellites, but they were far more numerous and more advanced than any other nation. Everything in outer space was under the close surveillance of these satellites. Upon hearing Wang Yunxiao's order to White Queen, everyone's eyes suddenly turned to him. What are you looking at me for? Don't you want to witness an interstellar war with your own eyes? Wang Yunxiao shrugged and said with a smile. The next moment, everyone's gazes became intense, expressing great interest. Soon, under White Queen's control, a three-dimensional projection appeared in the center of the palace, drawing everyone's attention. Unfortunately, Ronin's fleet hadn't yet reached Earth's outer space, and the 3D projection showed only a vast expanse of starry space. Meanwhile, Carol and her companions, along with the Skrull women and children who had joined Talos, were trapped aboard Lawson's spaceship by Yang Rog and his interstellar team. Yang Rog's first action was to have the Supreme Intelligence brainwash Carol a second time, even prioritizing the Cosmic Cube, demonstrating his deep regard for Carol. However, Yang Rog never anticipated that his actions would prove fruitless and, in fact, help Carol complete her transformation into Captain Marvel. While Yang Rog and his companions focused their full attention on Carol, Nicholas Joseph Fury, Maria Rambeau, and Talus also rose up in resistance, dispatching the Kree soldiers escorting them. Gollum, the Devourer, also played a significant role in this process. Fury was horrified when he first witnessed Gollum's rage, swallowing 2 Kree soldiers tightly in his stomach. Afterward, facing a relentless pursuit by a large number of Kree soldiers, Fury, Maria, and Talus found themselves in an increasingly difficult situation. Fortunately, Carol, having just completed her transformation into Captain Marvel, arrived at the right moment. Not only did she easily dispatch the Kree soldiers, but she also managed to attract the attention of Yon-Rogg and the others by holding an empty box. This gave them a chance to reclaim the spaceship. As for the actual Tesseract, Gollum devoured it in one gulp. It must be said that this little creature was truly unpretentious. Remarkably, neither Carol, the Star Troopers led by Yon-Rogg, nor Fury, Talus, or the others noticed anything unusual about the Tesseract, thus Wang Yunxiao's plan was ultimately successful. Carol ultimately intercepted Yon-Rogg and the others, allowing Fury, Maria, and Talus to safely escape back to Earth. However, Carol, having just completed her transformation into Captain Marvel, was still struggling to control her powers, giving Yon-Rogg and Minerva an opportunity to escape her. Seeing they were no match for Carol, Yon-Rogg and Minerva immediately changed their focus, deciding to seize the Tesseract. With Minerva's starfighter in hot pursuit, Maria's impressive piloting skills allowed them to quickly engage her. Furthermore, Carol, with her increasing mastery of her powers, finally dispatched Minerva in the nick of time, allowing Fury, Maria, and Talus to safely return to Maria's cabin. Next up was Ronin's fleet. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.